As soon as he was born, his own mother abandoned the demon. Becoming an orphan, he desperately fought with local boys every day for scraps of food. Though his tongue was sharp and his words bitter, he had a master who loved him madly. Unlike the demon, that master patiently taught him step by step, like a pair of parallel yin and yang. Then the two of them wandered from place to place, relying only on one sword. When that master left the mortal world, he hung up his sword and plunged into deep seclusion. To marry, have children, and live in abundance with a gentle wife and 2 lovely children. As was proper, the demon had no choice, grabbed the sword to take revenge. One by one he gutted the sect leaders, tore the flesh from the bones, and threw them to the crows. And then the invisible chain that had held him for so long finally began to weaken. People never knew the true story. They only chewed over in their heads the rumors they themselves invented about him. The demon's bloody madman passed into the past and remained only a name in history. But strangely, death did not take him. The heavens tore him back. The demon's soul seized the body of Wooten, a worthless man without any combat skills. Where the demon will go after rebirth, no one knows. We will have to watch to find out. Enjoy the review. Everything begins with a scene of desolation, corpses scattered everywhere, and witnesses shuddering in horror. At that moment a group arrived. The fierce elder shouted that Zhang Tian was exhausted and must die. Xuan Zhen, Zhang Guang, and Nangun Huang. Hearing this, Zhang Tian's face twitched and he said coldly, "Now only you remain." The elder immediately took a fighting stance, gripping his weapon, and shouted, "Amitabha." He rushed forward. Zhang Tian also charged. Their faces were close, and in both their eyes blazed a murderous desire. The elder suddenly received a strong blow from Zhang Tian, flew backward, and roared with rage. He quickly recovered and shouted, "Cursed god demon." He unleashed all his power with the heavenly palm of the Buddhist sect and struck Zhang Tian directly. He leapt over the elder's head with a swing. The elder cried out in alarm, "What?" Before the elder could recover, he dashed down and struck with all his might, shouting, "Then I will kill you first." The elder parried the sword's strike and shouted abruptly to his comrades. At that moment everyone, 3 chaotically surrounded him. Swords rained down in a storm. Although he was encircled, Zhang Tian held the upper hand, deftly dodging every attack. 2 elders instantly flared up, preparing to unleash a strike of plum blossom light and a thunderous volley. 2 elders shouted, "Die," and immediately released 2 dazzling beams of light through Zongshan. He looked at him with a self-satisfied smile and said, "May you be reborn in paradise." But even before he could rejoice, Zhang Tian sharply jumped back from his attack. Seeing this, the old man gasped in horror. "What?" Yong Tian instantly leapt into the air to gain momentum. Junshin Vor, with a crooked, grotesque smile, raised a bone and coldly said, "Next." Before this happened, Xuan Zhen was already dead. 2 outsiders turned pale and trembled, exclaiming, "Monster." Zhang Guang raised his sword, ready to fight to the death, but Nangun Huang broke into a shout and ordered a retreat. Zhang Yuan tightened his grip even more, his face twisted with tension, and he roared. At that moment, Wu Qing was the god demon Zhang Tian himself. To kill him, once someone drenched the central plains only with blood. So the masters from the 9 factions had to unite. Even so, facing an enemy without equal, their resolve almost wavered. Zhang Tian looked at him through a smile and maliciously threw, "Old man, prepare your grave." Zhang Guang roared with rage. While he cultivated, the elder said, "Ready, the grave is for you." Zhang Guang swiftly unfolded the plum blossom dance and forced Wu Chen to retreat. Wu Qing gripped the sword hilt tighter and sternly cut off, "Not yet." His eyes became icy, lips twisted, and "I still cannot die." Immediately he executed the 5th move of the sword's spirit. Ma Black Dragon's slash surged upward, and Zhang Guang was cut beyond recognition, not even having time to react. The old man screamed from unbearable pain, howling in despair. Barely had he killed Zhang Guang when a multitude of murderous intentions immediately overwhelmed him, and he froze, frowning. It was the deadly aura of the imperial art of the boundless sword. Seeing the aura converge, he clenched his teeth and cursed, "You rat from the Nangang clan, a sword that cuts to the bone." But he froze as oppressive memories of the past surged again. Thinking about it, he smiled wildly, looked at Nangang Huang and sneered mockingly. "It's just a scratch," the elder screamed in horror. "What?" Not giving him even a second to react, his eyes flashed with a bloody hue as he raised his sword. He gathered all his strength and struck Nangang Huang with all his might. The elder recoiled in shock but was still hit in the face. Eyes wide, teeth clenched in rage. He suddenly accelerated, instantly closed the distance, and unleashed his technique. The elder groaned in pain and shouted at Yongtine, "Vile demonic bandit. Zhang Tian emitted an icy, deadly aura, ignored the old man's words and dashed forward. The fight began again. The two faced each other. Nangong Huang gathered himself and continued to unleash his techniques. He had not yet managed to counterattack when the old man seized the moment and jumped down from the height. Nangong Huang's face tightened, his eyes blazing with rage, and he rushed down. The old man suddenly stabbed him in the back with a knife, and he roared in pain. Seeing this, the old man sneered and barked, "Die, bastard." He hissed that his life would end here, and Zhang Tian writhed in pain. Recklessly, he recalled the carefree days of childhood and felt everything had changed. The old man gripped the sword tighter, suddenly said, "It's over," and these words stunned even him. His face was filled with murderous intent, blood dripped from his lips, and he growled. He shouted, "I said end this curse," and without hesitation stabbed the sword through the old man again. The old man was struck, he spat blood, his eyes were bloodshot, and he hissed in pain. He panicked, the blade had clearly pierced his heart. How was he still alive? He stumbled, "Demon God, his head is falling." 9 great sects were wiped off the face of the earth, not a single living soul remained, only desolation. Suddenly Jung Tion plunged into memories. Around him echoed children's laughter and quarrelsome voices. While the child was still playing, suddenly someone's hand appeared. The child was lifted up. He looked intently and wondered if this was the moment between life and death. So much time has passed since I last saw the master's young face. Yes, it was from here that the journey to Zhonghu began. It all started with battles for survival. I wandered everywhere, relying only on one sword. Killing just like that, is there any meaning left in life? In his memory surfaced a gentle woman, and she whispered, "I understand this feeling. I was like that too, pushing in the market, arguing about everything. To survive, I considered everyone enemies, and constantly calming children about food and clothes. It was exhausting every time. Those moments were priceless. When I lost my parents, I broke down, and the children gave me back the meaning to live." Zhang Tian pondered, "Once I dreamed of living among everyone, but for someone like me, who knows only slaughter, you are the reason for my existence." I drew the sword again from hatred, a rootless wandering life. For 15 years I have been alone on the bloody path, the sword worn out, the body covered with wounds. Immersed in thoughts, he suddenly heard a voice. "This is the tomb of the demon god Zhen Tian. What nonsense are you spouting, barging in here? Can my martial art be sold for a few coins?" Hearing the noise, Zhen Tian squinted. What a commotion. Is this hell? He opened his eyes and saw a crowd before him. A woman said, "Your elder brother is unfortunate and cannot inherit the art. I will ask my son to take the Fire Flower Clan's manual." Zhen Tian stood stunned. What is going on here? Could this really be hell? The boy objected indignantly. "No, our eldest brother is suitable. How can the art be given to an outsider?" The girl nearby noticed, "You are not a direct descendant. Even if he does not understand this, this ancestral technique must belong to the Fire Flower Body Clan." The man opposite said, "This is not the end yet. I have a proposal." Zhen Tian asked about this proposal. That man continued, "I heard those two are so poor they have nothing to eat, so I will put up the money. And you, Hua Wuchen, stake all the art of the Fire Flower Body Clan. We fight. The winner takes all." The two children sprang up. "Our eldest cannot train because of his madness. Do you seriously think we will fall for this?" The man sneered mockingly. "Chatter, how tiresome this is." When they called him Wu Cheng, Zhen Tian became even more confused. "Stop, who is Hua Wu Cheng?" He shouted decisively, "I am the demon god Zhang Tian." Diabo froze and repeated the name in shock. "Demon god Zhen Tian." Diabo curled his lip in a sneer and said, "If so, why don't you call yourself the king of the underworld?" Dao Zheng blushed with shame, and Su Yan nearby did not look any better. An arrogant female voice sounded, scolding him for things escalating day by day. Fu Qian clicked her tongue and boldly said that the future of the Fire Flower Body Clan was decided. People from the Qin Hua Merchant Guild left, leaving behind a promise. His silence meant he agreed to a duel at the Beiyan Pavilion on the 5th day of the 2nd month. Diabo warned this is a vow between two fighters, then began provoking, hinting to the demon god Zhang Tian that he well knew the consequences of breaking the oath. When they set off, the three who remained froze in shock. They did not believe that the decision for them was made this way. Su Yan said anxiously, "Remind him that he has never truly held a sword." He laughed contemptuously and declared that for such a level, one stream of my inner strength is enough. Wu Qin tested his inner strength and instantly felt something strange. He asked himself in surprise where his energy had gone. He panicked and shouted. He felt his body was empty and there was no strength left inside. He exploded with a cry of rage, cursed his weak body, it could not even lift a sword. He continued to scream wildly, while the girl begged him to stop. In despair, the girl called him, begging her brother to come to his senses, even though he was going mad. Tears welled up in his eyes. Cyan squeezed his hand and said, "No one should have to endure this." Dao Zhen scolded the girl for calling him a stupid brother, but Su Yan stubbornly did not apologize. Cyan began to cry and said in a trembling voice that it was all her fault because of him, their parents had died horribly. Having said this, the girl rushed away, and Dao Zhen only sighed heavily. Dao Zhen apologized for her, explained that she had lost control, and quietly left. Everyone dispersed, and Wu Qin remained standing all alone. He was ashamed that the children saw him as a madman, and only bitterness remained in his soul. Wu Qin froze, staring at the large tombstone, and pondered thoughtfully. He remembered how he had cut off the head of the Namgung family head, and how his own heart seemed to be pierced. He looked at his reflection in the stone and thought, after avenging Yan Hua and his brothers and sisters, he should finally find peace. He did not want this, desperately asking why he still lived in this body. His mind was in complete chaos, especially that the children resembled Zai and Yue just the same. He grabbed his head in despair when suddenly a loud voice rang out, "Young master." Masha ran up and grumbled that the young master's weekly outings had almost given him a heart attack. He asked who that boy was, but the boy only looked embarrassed and could not understand why he was being asked. Masha sighed, thought she was losing her mind again, and asked for permission to explain everything. He said that Hua Wuchen was once a genius hunted by the righteous path, and at 23 he led them, and this was already the 6th time he had to repeat this again. He grumbled that he had repeated it 205 times. Wu Chen dryly cut in, "So what?" He asked if it was true that he was so heroic. Why was his Dantian now destroyed, and why did everyone consider him mad? The story began 17 years ago. 2 children stood opposite each other and swore never to use internal power. Diabo agreed at 9 o'clock, both shouted honestly and fairly. He said he did not know who started first, only that they fought without elders nearby. They silently admitted, Diabo truly lived up to his reputation. Both eagerly rushed into the duel and relentlessly exchanged blows. Suddenly Diabo stopped admiring him and calling him a genius. This confused Wu Chen. Suddenly he clenched internal power in his hand and spat, "You fool." He coughed again and blood sprayed from his nose. He asked why Diabo used the 7 wounds fist, despite their oath not to use internal power. Diabo sneered disdainfully and coldly asked if Wu Qing still considered him a friend. He said that this was truly the strongest move of the Kongtong sect's 7 wounds fist, 1 strike can cruelly maim. He clenched his fist, gathering strength, and said that a single strike would confine that elder to bed. He delivered another blow, disdainfully pushing Wu Qing to defend. Feeling mashi, he propped his chin, thinking that the consequences of 7 traumatic fist blows explained why people called him crazy, understanding all that he fiercely spat out, indignantly. He recalled Diabo's conditions and suspected, the one who destroyed him also dared to demand a duel. He asked Masha how they treated him then, and learned that it was the decision of the previous master. He asked, "And my father?" Masha replied, "Yes." The father decided only to scold him. Diabo was the son of the influential Qinghua trade guild. He coldly, contemptuously smiled at his father. He only made a remark to the man who crippled his son. Polished plaques flawlessly reflected his face in the candlelight. He told how his illness exhausted his parents. The mother died first and the father later because of debts. He said that only debts remained, 2 loyal servants and a few martial arts masters. He introduced 2 children, Hua Daozhen and Hua Sayuan, as brother and sister. He remembered her crying. The girls sobbed and blamed him for their parents dying horribly because of him. He realized one illness devoured their clan, that is why she was so furious. The sky was sprinkled with stars, and the light was still burning in his room. Suddenly it occurred to him, he was once the demon god Zhen Tian, the very one who died 30 years ago. Now I have been reborn in the body of Hua Wuchen, a madman with a broken dantian. He believed that the killers were dead, and his past no longer bound him to anything. 2 children wrote to him, "Get well as soon as possible." He had to prepare for a duel with Diabo on the 5th day of the next month. He calculated, before the fight, he needed at least to return to the initial level. He stubbornly repeated, "This body naturally has extraordinary combat talent." Seeing how the energy thickened insanely fast, he decided that he no longer needed to feel the life force. While he was cultivating, a shooting star suddenly flashed across the sky. 2 couldn't handle it. 3 showed up, Huang Feng, Bo Xin, and Ma Shi, and Huang Feng loudly asked what was wrong with him. Seeing him lying there, he shouted joyfully, he's finished. He pressed his fingers to his wrist, checked his pulse, and said that everything was fine, even stronger than before. Masha finally exhaled with relief. Huang Feng could not understand why his strength had increased. He trembled, questioning his own body, and was shocked by it himself. He suddenly stood up and asked what constitution he had. The other replied, Heavenly Combat Constitution. He muttered to himself, Heavenly Martial Physic, then angrily snapped back. He was consumed by anger. A righteous constitution contradicted demonic arts. Masha shouted for him to calm down while falling. He madly cursed his fate. There was a little more than a month left until the duel, and his condition was critical. He asked who they were, and Masha answered. It was Chief Administrator Du and Elder Zhao. Masha panicked and begged him not to die. He silently swore that he would not die, fool. The rain raged harder, and Masha reproached him, reminding him that he had already been bedridden for 3 days. From behind he called out, asking if he was really recovered yet. Wu Qing kept walking, thinking that those 3 days had almost finished off his already deteriorated body before the duel. He frowned and ordered them to be silent and come out for the duel. First, you need a sword. He turned sharply, pointed at Masha, and ordered her to immediately go and find one. He said that they still have to worry about food, the sword is beyond their means, and they are up to their ears in debt. Wu Qin finally realized, the declining clan first needs to take care of its own money. Wu Qin insisted, if the debt is already so huge, a little more, what difference does it make? Masha panicked, what? He shouted, warning, are you going to borrow again? Are you crazy? But Wu Qin ignored and coldly cut off, shut up. He smiled, came up with a plan, and without delay sent letters to 2 elders. 2 elders read the letter, and Bashan shouted angrily. The young master went to the gatekeeper's sect again. Huang Feng tried to calm down. Don't worry, the gatekeeper sect will definitely kick him out, but Bo Zinside strongly denied that this was the case. His face darkened. He was afraid. If he provokes the gatekeeper sect, the Xiu Assassins sect will intervene. Near the gatekeeper's sect gate, Wu Qin cracked his fingers, looked at the giant in front of him, and asked to admit Hua Wu Qin to the sect master. Guard Lu Hu sneered and said, if he came to play, let him come in. Wu Qin defiantly raised an eyebrow and ordered to call someone older. Lu Hu growled in response, and she hurriedly apologized. The young master is sick. Wu Qin raised his eyes directly at Lu Hu and asked in a quiet voice what he was staring at. Suddenly a gold coin flew up and a man climbed out of it, asking what was happening. Lu Hu said he wanted to see the sect master, and Wu Qin's curiosity was aroused whether this man was a person of higher rank. The man flipped the coin again and asked, why? Wu Qin calmly replied that he wanted to borrow more money. Hearing this, Zhang Bao caught the coin and coldly threw it, so he is a guest. Zhang Bao and Lu Hu stepped aside, opened the door, and said that a meeting with the sect leader was not necessary, just come in. Walking down the corridor, Mashi leaned to Wu Qin's ear and whispered quietly, young master. He cautiously extended an offer to turn back, feeling that something was wrong. Wu Qin clicked his tongue and said, we've come this far, what else is there to say? Masha leaned closer and whispered quietly that a few days ago his matrons saw. The sect leader fought and tore open the cultivator's chest, saying that he had mastered the technique of killing the double sky and killing the moon with the black hand. Wu Qin did not hear properly and asked again. Mashi repeated. They mockingly laughed as if the servants were smarter than Wu Qin, but it was already too late to turn back. The guards immediately drew their swords, waiting for Zhang Bao's order begin. Zhang Bao laughed. Too many people had gathered near the gates, so openly beating the son of the body of the Fire Flower clan would not work. He curled his lips and sneered, as if saying, if you can't even pay interest, you have no right to come here. He would not let Wu Qin continue to squeeze everything out of them as his parents did. Masha fell to her knees and begged for mercy, and Wu Qin, stunned, asked, like my parents. Suddenly he realized he had said the wrong thing, and memories of the time when he was Zhang Tian flashed in his mind. The impatient guard shouted, start. Zhang Bao nodded, just give them a lesson, and the soldiers responded in chorus. But Wu Qin swiftly slipped through, grabbed his wrist and broke his arm. Looking at his hand, he thought, with such a body, it's better to rely on cunning than strength. Zhang Bao flipped a coin and ordered another soldier, kill Wu Qin. The soldier rushed forward, the sword cutting the air, and Wu Qin stood rooted, as if he had already calculated everything. He poured all his strength into the strike, preparing to cut his opponent in half. The blade flew at a furious speed. Wu Qin bent down and dodged. The two circled in the darkness. The man roared, fidgeted, and rained blows like 2 gusts of wind fighting for life. Wu Qin bounced off nimbly and thought, I cannot match strength, I will have to rely on my legs. Suddenly he was overwhelmed with inspiration and delight. He rammed the opponent with his forehead into the chin. The man lost balance, blood splattered, and Zhang Bao seized the chance and dashed forward. He pushed down, but Wu Qin dodged, and the strike exploded with a roar of fury. They rushed forward, but Wu Qin skillfully flipped and rolled without stopping. No one could figure out where he would turn. Zhang Bao and his thugs fell and slowly, unhurriedly, got back on their feet. Not noticing Wu Qin, Masha panicked and shouted, Are you okay? He sat down, said he was fine, and Masha curiously asked where he learned this strange fighting style. He admitted, honestly, it's not a martial art, just tricks. He began wandering the streets. Masha, surprised, asked, So when did that young master also wander the streets? Zhang Bao jumped up, tossed a coin, and smiled mockingly, challenging him, tried to dodge one more move, and dashed into attack. Wu Qin frowned and thought, could all this be because of one coin? He exploded with rage and sharply ordered the soldiers to retreat, deciding to handle it himself. Swallowing, Wu Qin hastily said that he wanted to meet the sect leader and asked why it was so difficult. Zhang Bao drew his sword and coldly replied that the sect leader was not someone he could meet. He sneered mockingly, ordered to smash Wu Qin, and rushed down to strike. A sudden flash of light made Wu Qin draw his stick and block the blow. Zhang Bao frowned and muttered with surprise that it was just a stick, while Wu Qin jumped aside and thought that using a stick as a sword was a good idea for now. Blow after blow, block after block, they exchanged without pause. No one gave up. He stayed alert, thinking that man's techniques were really as strange as they said. At that very moment, Zhang Bao opened and Wu Qin immediately noticed it. He struck right into the gap and pierced the hand. Blood splattered. He was stunned. He did not expect that Wu Qin would block the strike with a stick sword and immediately find his weak spot. He chased step by step after that rotten rat who growled, while Wu Qin laughed and hinted, do not underestimate the stick. He twirled the stick and smiled, confident that this would scare him. Chief Vital was going for the stick and struck Zhang Bao, stunned by how quickly Wu Qin had reached this level. He tried to jab again, but Wu Qin easily dodged, and a question flashed through his mind. Maybe this is the same person he once knew. He raised an eyebrow and sharply asked exactly to whom the clan owed a debt. The sticks pierced deep into the flesh and hit the bone in his elbow joint. Standing before him, he sneered at their pathetic martial skills and even dared to demand repayment. To taste the martial art you despise, Wu Qin just clicked his tongue and replied, when will I do that? Zhang Bao lunged forward with his sword and shouted, your farce ends here, as he launched an attack. Blackhand, the twin technique of heaven's extermination and moon's killing, the ultimate move. But Wu Qin only growled coldly, the same one who had mocked. So it's you, he said, and swiftly dodged the strike. The opponent froze in shock. He really dodged. And at that moment, Zhang Bao noticed a heavy punch from Wu Qin was rushing straight at him. At that moment, he saw only the sword spinning wildly and his head buzzed. He could not understand why Wu Qin concealed such an astonishing power. At that moment, Wu Qin struck directly at Zhang Bao, and everything shook. Zhang Bao spat out blood, muttering something indistinct. Bastard, how do you plan to pay for the consequences? Again, Wu Qin lightly tossed a coin into the air and said, I did not come here to listen to your threats. But if you tell me what I want to hear, I can give you a little more time, so I will say it again. Wu Qin turned around, his face became terrifying, and he said, lend me some money. He laughed with pleasure, and a thought flashed through his mind. He had not been this happy for a long time. As soon as he finished, Masha rushed forward and snatched the pipe from him. He slammed the pipe on the table and barked angrily, this harms the young master. Wu Qin just clicked his tongue, full of regret. Zhang Bao responded to this, and Wu Qin asked, why do they lend if they are so afraid of losses and do not even take collateral? He raised an eyebrow and declared that there was treachery here. The man tilted his head to object, but Wu Qin knocked on the table and declared that he still heard him plotting something. Wu Qin coldly warned, he will think carefully before they shove cubes into his mouth so that he cannot utter a single word. He sighed heavily and admitted, this is an order from the Merchant Guild Kinghua. Wu Qin asked which exact deal they signed. Seeing him stumble, Wu Qin exposed him and forced him to tell the truth. He growled as if warning, do not pledge your loyalty to those who will betray you in life and in death. Frightened, he lowered his head, trembled, and confessed that there is a secret contract. He said that the merchants forced them to issue loans at usurious interest rates to drive the Fire Flower Body clan into debt. He continued and added in response that the guild promised to sow the lands. Flipping through the report, he asked how much 300 stories would turn into in a year. The man replied, it will be 5,000. Hearing this, Wu Qin laughed loudly, called it nonsense, threw the report on the table, coughed, and ordered him to continue. He pressed his chin to his hand and asked who was behind them. He confessed that it was the Xiu assassin sect, which recently joined the Four Martial Heavens. He mockingly stated that the Four Martial Heavens are a real mess. After that, Masha quietly made a sound. When he looked back, the boy immediately asked, "How do you know them?" Wu Chen briefly replied, "I don't want to explain." He asked why the one who went for the money had not returned yet. Zhang Bao answered that he needed a little more time. The man with the chest of gold ran in, handed over all 300 taels, and immediately caught Wu Qian's attention. He opened it, carefully checked, and nodded with satisfaction. He stood up, handed the chest to Masha, and barked that she should not ask questions and hold it tightly. In the rain, he sternly ordered to record the loan in the ledger. He promised to return and pay everything down to the last penny as soon as he dealt with the merchants. Suddenly, he remembered and warned them, "Do not exploit people uncontrollably." He grimly raised his gaze at them and warned, "If they cross the line, they will be crushed." Upon hearing this, Wu Qing only sighed as if everything became clear immediately. He and Masha set off, walking and considering who to eliminate first. Returning home, Bo Xin burst out with a joyful exclamation, but seeing blood on himself, he screamed in alarm. Confused, he asked about the blood. Wu Qin immediately replied that it was not his. He hurriedly asked what happened in the sect of the Gate Guardians. Wu Qin answered evenly, he only borrowed a few stories, they were short. He said directly that they must watch the martial arts masters and not let them out anymore. Bo Xin trembled and asked where the money came from. The sect of the Gate Guardians definitely would not have lent it. Wu Qin replied that he made them record everything in the ledger. He lightly patted Bo Xin on the shoulder and said, "Make sure you have brothers with food and clothing, and I will take care of the rest." After talking, he went inside, leaving behind only a brief instruction, "Do good." He left, leaving three standing there confused and watching him go. Bo Xin quietly whispered, "Has Huang Feng lost his mind to behave so wildly?" But Huang Feng just clicked his tongue and said nothing. He sighed and whispered to himself that he never had parents and did not know what to answer at all. He told everything, said that the money was temporarily fine, and promised to take care of the brothers and servants, asking them not to worry. Two children outside heard all this. He also added that in a few days he would fight Zheng Daobao over a secret clan manuscript. He cracked his fingers, filled with rage, and said he would break the neck. An old commemorative plaque stood motionless under trembling candles, while the flame flickered in the night wind. In the silent night under the cold moonlight, a lonely wooden tower rose. Dawn came, sunlight pierced the clouds and hit the tower, cutting through space. Still at dawn, three men hurriedly dragged heavy boards inside. They wearily put down the boards and grumbled with irritation. They did not understand his orders. Masha muttered that those things were so heavy that backs would break, and someone replied, "Once everything is finished, they will go drink and rest." Hearing the noise, Wu Chen burst through the door and joyfully asked if they had brought them. He examined each box, frowning and muttering, "In 50, in 80, and in 110 containers everything is correct." With curiosity, Masha asked what he would do with them since martial arts masters carry so much heavy stuff. He simply opened a box to look at the sword. In a moment, Wu Chen, with a sly smile, said, "If the sword is in hand, then, of course, to cut." He eagerly grabbed the hilt, thinking he would first train with the nastiest of the 50. He exhaustedly and with all his might pressed but could not lift the sword. Masha asked inquisitively if he really intended to put it into action. He thought irritably he expected difficulties, but did not imagine that he would not even be able to lift 50 carts. His body turned out to be too weak. He clenched his fist and firmly swore he would never give up. Soon he was gasping for breath, trembling, and said that he could lift a little with both hands. He shakily turned to Masha and begged her not to stand confused, but to quickly follow orders. Barely carrying the sword, Wu Qin reminded Ma Shi to add a little more meat to the ration. Masha sighed, watching his figure disappear, and said with a smirk that it did not calm him down. In his private room, he slowly raised the sword, resolutely determined to master it. Wu Qin raised the sword with both hands and reminded himself, only 2 weeks left until the duel. He held his breath and pressed his lips. His talent contradicted Master Ma's teaching. There was no choice left. He had to learn from the master's friend, mastering the 9 unparalleled swords. He firmly told himself that this was the only way to get out of this mess. Elsewhere, Daobao, admiring the view and grabbing his lute, suddenly exclaimed in surprise. He raised an eyebrow and asked, "Is it true that Hua Wukin tore the guild guards to shreds?" The guard nodded. They were seriously wounded for 2 weeks, and this confused Diabo because, supposedly, Hua Wuchen does not have a dantian. With a sneer, he said that the opponent was clearly not an ordinary person. Diabo smiled and said that perhaps he would prepare a gift for young Master Hua from the Hua physical clan. He continued plucking the strings, weaving gloomy intentions into every rhythm. With pleasure, he ran the thought through his mind and impatiently awaited the duel to finally see Hua Wuchen's true face. Every movement revealed a heavenly combat physique, a body built to endure such intensity. Soon everything he asked for would be ready. Wuchen looked thoughtfully and barely nodded. Mashi has prepared everything. He barely flinched, took a deep breath, and promised himself that he could finally start. At first, Wuchen subtly shifted the instep of his foot. He prepared to perform the 9 unmatched swords, the first form advanced step. He recalled the master's advice, always move forward with the sword. Immediately, Wuchen rushed into the second form, the technique that breaks soldiers. His heart was pounding, but he stubbornly continued to perform the techniques, enduring the tension and resolutely not letting anything stop him. The ball flew chaotically, leaving streaks that flashed by too quickly. He didn't manage to see them clearly. When the sphere flew straight into his face, he used the third form, the energy rupture. But just as he was intently watching the ball, it suddenly looped and hit him right in the back. He screamed in pain and sounded even more pitiful than a spoiled old man. Having finished the third form, he immediately prepared to enter the fourth. He hung several bamboo tubes high, let them fall and become targets. Wuchen was about to perform the fourth form, Martial's Rupture. There is no martial art that can completely counter every technique. No matter how intricate martial arts are, they always have a weak spot. A pure sword can still pierce through them. But to the master's surprise, Wuchen could not land a single strike. Fortunately, a bamboo tube suddenly fell and hit the rope. Even if 10,000 warriors storm in, all will submit to the sword. As soon as he finished the move, suddenly a log flew from somewhere and hit him on the head. He roared a challenge and threw the sixth technique, one cut to split the moon. This move could have split the moon in half, but in his hands, he barely extinguished a few candles. Soon he switched everything to the seventh, one cut to split the earth, a strike that could cleave the ground. But in a moment his face turned pale. There was not a single chip on the statue. He was forced to use the eighth technique, Sky Split, capable of cutting the very sky. After rehearsing for some time, his body weakened and the sword slipped from his hands. He lay on the floor, knocked out, and thought, if he had already shattered both himself and the sword, then he could stop using it. Wuchen closed his eyes and barely managed to repeat the last move. He remembered how the master asked, "Did you remember?" and how he answered, "I remembered," but whether this half-learned sword technique can even be called a martial art, I doubted. The explanation sounded awkward, as if a child in Martial's madness was making up nonsense. The master was embarrassed, cleared his throat, and said, "I do not object, but I cannot allow lost supreme skill to fade away." He was the only swordsman capable of matching the master, and this thought gnawed at him. Does the master resort to the inner chi just like he does? The master said he used bodily techniques, but one who joins a sect cannot fully master them, so I had to pass this on to someone who does not belong to any sect. When he heard this, his face darkened. Body technique, how trivial. He had not yet finished reporting when a kick struck him in the forehead. "Do as I say," the master barked, grabbed his head, and hurriedly blurted out, "All right, all right." The lesson began. Train 1,000 times and the body will change. 100,000 and the inner energy will merge with the sword. 1,000,000 and there will be no equals in the world. He listened attentively, thinking that enduring 1,000 times a day for 3 years was possible. But was he really that resilient? The master replied, "I don't know. If it were a fight to the death, one of us would have died." He looked up at the sky and quietly admitted to himself. He was also curious who that person really was. Returning to reality, Mashi dashed forward and slapped him several times. He woke up sharply and shouted, "Wait a minute," while Mashi was panic-stricken asking if he was all right, and the irritated Wuchen warned, "If these hits continue, your ears will bloom." He got up and decided. After only one training session he fainted, so he was still very far from the goal. Mashi brought a tray with food and ordered him to eat to quell his hunger. Masha blinked and replied, "You said yesterday that you want to eat this. We haven't eaten meat for a long time." But Wu Qing demanded more. "Tomorrow there must be beef to strengthen me." Masha froze and nodded gloomily. "Beef gives strength." He ate and without raising his eyes ordered, "If there is little money, take from what I borrowed. Tell the servant not to worry. From now until the duel with Qingdao Bao, there must be meat at every meal." Masha curiously asked who taught him martial arts. Wu Qing seemed not to hear, waved it off. What happened? He said simply, useless like me suddenly learned martial arts. Obviously, it seems strange to you. Masha's people remembered how this man once defeated the gatekeeper sect with just sticks, although he knew no martial arts, and now he was practicing strange sword techniques. Swallowing the last bite, he said, I already told that boy, it won't hurt to tell you too. He was about to say who he really was, but Masha interrupted him. Stop, I don't want to know. He was afraid he would lose his mind, change, and disappear again. He swallowed and whispered quietly, you won't leave the Fire Flower Bataclan, right? He said seriously, I won't leave. Only when this family becomes the strongest martial clan in Sichuan will I consider it. Otherwise, I have nothing else to do. Masha froze in surprise. This is the clan of the highest martials in Sichuan. And he replied, yes, why are you surprised? Wu Qing a moment ago slapped himself on the forehead, and it immediately swelled. He barked, enough, go. Masha had to leave. Sitting silently for a few minutes, he quietly asked his former client, are you satisfied now, Hua Wuchen? Huanfen looked out the window and remembered that the match was in 10 days. Bo Xin muttered, Qingdao Bo. He will definitely try to kill the young master and seize the treasure of the Fire Emperor. Bo Xin looked puzzled. What did you say? Huanfeng continued, think about it. Huanfeng remembered the two children. His heart tangled like a ball of wires. He realized, we cannot allow those two children to die along with them. And it turned out it was Wu Qing's breath after sword training. After several days of hard training, he felt his hands becoming noticeably more defined. He barely managed to swing a 70-cat weight sword with one hand, but his techniques still remained clumsy. A familiar voice called Hua Wu Qing's brother, who was still training, and he looked back. He waved them off as if to say, go play somewhere else, but the children froze and said they were worried. He had been forcing himself to train for several days. They asked if he had trained because of those words, but Wu Qing was again clouding his eyes, and the girl who shouted, because of you, our parents died. Su Yan had since carried a feeling of guilt, insisting that she was just too angry and did not mean it. Involuntarily, he thought, just now seeing them, he remembered two other children. He gently stroked both of their heads and reassured them, it's all right, don't worry. Dao Jing imitated the sword stance, and Su Yan stood nearby correcting, no, brother, hold your hand straighter. Wu Qing softened and thought, they imitate me so cutely. Casting a glance at them, he remembered training with the master and suddenly realized something important. The master's words burned in his head. Wu Qing, exhale, the longer you swing the sword, the better. Once the teacher made him balance a basin of water on his head and ordered him to slow down, return to stance, and breathe shortly and slowly. He pondered, here it was the weak spot of the 9 unmatched swords. He gripped the sword hilt, almost forgetting that lesson, then put down the sword and smiled. Don't worry, brothers, you are the strongest. Then he instantly slammed the door and stepped away from the children. The children looked at each other anxiously. Will he be okay? Probably no way. Wu Qin threw himself into training again without rest, and every word of the master came alive in his mind. Wu Qin drew his sword and performed the 5th technique, army killing, releasing all his qi in one explosion. Seeing that his movement had improved, he burst with joy. This was a qi cultivation method, accumulating internal strength through body movements. He sharply leaned back and with one jerk cut the candle. Unlike meditative methods, the art of movement with a shield was considered low-grade and unexpected. Not like before, now he matched his breathing to the rhythm of the sword so that his body would not sway. Gradually, his movements noticeably improved, all thanks to the calm qi flow. After many exhausting trainings, the once turbulent Danshan finally began to thicken. Suddenly, Huangfen appeared and asked if the young master was still training. This made Masha freeze in surprise. He hurriedly covered the box and said that the young master seemed like a completely different person. Where he used to fall, now he no longer falls. He said that Wudin therapy seemed effective, and proudly recalled how Wu Qin cried during acupuncture. Feeling this, Huanfeng grabbed his head and exclaimed that even the fake methods of Wuding cannot so noticeably improve the condition after one procedure. Huanfeng ordered him to report about anything, but Mashi rushed away without waiting for the rest of the words and kept muttering, yes, yes. He opened the door, smiled, and invited the young master to stop and eat. Sweat streamed from Mashi, and Vuchin, gasping, groaned that the room was too cramped. He froze in shock. What? He closed his eyes to catch his breath and said again, I said it's too cramped here for training. The next morning in Martial Hall, the sky was cloudless, and the sun gently warmed. He brazenly spat out nasty words, is someone already here? Mashi awkwardly stepped behind and announced that the young master wants to use the great marshal's hall. He cracked his joints, turned around, and shouted loudly, "I am occupying Marshall Hall for training. There is another place, go there." These words angered them. They muttered about how he spoke as if he had never seen a coffin in his life, and already he is crying. A mother's sword does not yet make a warrior. He has never wetted his blade with blood. Seeing their faces, Wu Chen sneered, "You have big eye sockets." One man was already about to object. Although he was a young lord, someone stepped forward and stopped him. That person spoke for everyone and made a gesture to indicate, "Let him step back a pace." "Sir, let's go. The young master wants to practice." The novice turned out to be captain of the cold sword Ta Bao Ren. I thought Wu Chen was half conscious, so I didn't bother him, and mumbling just passed by, but he went crazy again. Wu Qing, enraged, immediately called back. Wu Chen teased further, "If you have an opinion, say it to my face. Talking behind my back is cowardice." Baoran froze for a moment, ready to argue. "So what?" Wu Qing laughed. Then the swordsman appeared. "Young sir, even if the sky fell, no one would dare resist the future head of the family." But Wu Qing did not let go. "You know the saying, a dog that bites does not bark. If it barks, it is out of fear." He continued to tease, "If you don't intend to be a hero, then don't bark. Live your cowardly life." Wu Qing became even more agitated. "Who are you to make demands?" Masha was so tense that she dared to peek only with one eye. Wu Qing stepped forward and resolutely replied, "I have never known regret." The sheaths fell, but instead of continuing the fight, he thrust his Tao into the ground. The martial arts masters froze in surprise. The duel took place without swords. Although he was pressed, Baoran countered with a sharp upward stab, and Wu Qing spun to dodge. His endless dodges drove the man to shout, "Young Master Hua, take the sword and fight like a man." Baoran sharply fired, "I have served Hua for 25 years. The clan's decline is your fault." He took a fighting stance and mocking said, "Now you want to learn martial arts." He performed the second form of the 9 unmatched swords, a technique that breaks soldiers. Sparks flew as the weapons clashed. As soon as he finished, he immediately slapped the man in the face. He resolutely declared, "From now on, everything will be different." The man thought to himself, "Incredible, his eyes have changed." In the last clear moment, he realized, this is the gaze of a martial arts master, and instantly collapsed. The spectators froze in shock. Could it be that young Mr. Hua really won? Wu Qing placed his hands on his hips and asked, "Any more complaints?" The outraged martial arts master shouted, "That was a cowardly act." He yelled that Captain Bao Ren had no right to wrong him, but was cut off by a sharp shout, "Shut up." He said he learned from him. Wu Qing briefly replied, "Fine, step back." The man bowed and said, "Yes, sir." Vuchen said coldly, "You two go." The previous fighter still protested, "He is the young master, isn't that too much?" He asked, "Why did you spare him?" The man replied, "Who said I spared him? I was going to maim him." He was surprised, "Are you serious?" The man replied, "Do I sound like I'm joking?" He stammered, no." Masha also pondered, when did he start to be able to do this? He placed his hands on his hips and looked up. But isn't his change for the better, right? Probably. The figure stood, staring into the distance, while someone's voices discussed the duel with the Qinghua Merchant Guild. Boshin asked Elder Zhao, "How many years have we been in the sect?" He replied, "About 37 years. Boshin sighed, "Oh, what a long time that is." His hand-to-hand combat skills made even the proud Duan clan acknowledge her brilliance. He clasped hands and said that we were both enchanted by his radiance and swore loyalty. Boshin said, "This is not betrayal but a way to settle family affairs." He replied, "I know, no need to lecture me." He looked at the ancestral tablet and said heavily, 17 years of caring for the madness of the young Master Hua is also 17 years of watching the decline of the Yanhua clan. He continued, "When we meet Emperor Yang again, he will not blame us. Are you ready?" Bosian replied, "Of course, we need some silver, a few skilled warriors, and 4 travel passes." "Go first," suddenly shouted Huangfen. "You." He recalled that figure and said gloomily, "After all, he is your blood relative. Someone must help him recover." He revealed that the martial arts master from the Yun Zhang sect, hired by the Qinghua Trade Guild, will be a witness to the duel. Huang Feng growled angrily, "A witness? Isn't that outright robbery?" and added, "This shows that they take this seriously." Boshin studied the Qinghua Merchant Guild, those vile scoundrels. He ordered, "You will arrive first at the meeting place and wait for me. 2 children will be in shock." Someone asked, "The meat has been tough lately, is it just me?" Masha replied dryly, "No, cheap beef is naturally tough." Wu Qin asked, "Are we without money?" Mazai answered, "I don't know," and the servant extended 2 small silver coins. Wu Qin asked, "Are you crazy?" Ma Zai took a sip and calmly replied, "I don't get angry over trifles," then teased, "So why do you say things that make me want to hit you?" He stood up, patted his chest, and asked, "Enough, how do I look today in this outfit?" "Masha is cold, not sure, but when you are in bandages it suits you better." A bump grew on his head. Wu Qin said coldly, "Let's go." Offended, he trudged after him. He squinted, "Don't say you're here to tell me to run away." The man pressed his hand to his chest. "Of course not," he replied. "I know, wait for me, I'll deal with these bandits myself." He muttered to himself, "This old man worries too much, I'll smash them to pieces. Old people are so nervous." The estate gates suddenly opened, and sunlight poured into the yard. Someone sharply raised their hand to the sky and announced a duel between the Qinghua Trade Guild and the Fire Flower Clan. He finished writing and shouted loudly, "Place your bets." Someone asked about the odds. He looked at the list and said, "Let's see." He announced, "The highest payout is only 4-1. The player fell silent, thinking, worth the bet. He firmly explained that the fighters should support the military clan, not the merchant guild, and after some thought the man decided, "I bet 2 taels on the Fire Flower Body Clan." At that moment someone exclaimed, "Oh, young Master Hua from the Hua clan has arrived." From afar, through the dust, confident footsteps were heard. Somyeon was walking decisively. Wu Chen did not even glance. He measuredly savored the caramel hawthorn on a stick. Someone, all confused, asked, "Can I cancel the same 2-tael bet that I made earlier?" When he came, he carelessly said, "See, I am not late." Bosin just grunted, "But eating so much before the match is too much." The one under the umbrella addressed the two of them. "Long time no see, right?" Chu Yan elegantly struck her face with a fan and asked, "For the sake of the family, I will ask again, do you really want a duel?" The crowd buzzed. "What is this? The clan of the Fire Flower itself demands a duel, but they have no right to do so. He is crazy." Hearing the rumors, Wu Qin waved them off and thought, "It seems someone has challenged me. This debt must be paid." After the meal, he looked around. A murderous intent was clearly visible in him. "We cannot allow the Qinghua Merchants Guild to seize the secret manuscript. There is no other way. We must risk everything in battle. Do you not agree?" The crowd froze even more. The Trade Guild dares to dream of the secret technology of the martial clan, and this is even Xinghua. What is going on here? She released a murderous intent and asked, "I wonder how long you can keep calm." Soon they lit the signal fire. Everyone fell silent and watched. He decisively declared, "The witness of today's duel will be Kan Kan from the Congdon sect." He solemnly introduced the heir of the Qinghua Merchants Guild, Qing Diabo. And on the other hand appeared a young gentleman of the Hua family, Hua Wu Qin. The crowd erupted in a scream. He proclaimed, "In the name of the Congdong sect, fight honestly and with honor." Diabo said with a smile, "Oh, I see, the guild has delivered the goods to you." Wu Qing blinked. "Goods?" He boasted, "The outfit you are wearing is the uniform of Fireflower Boticlans. I sent it as a welcome gift to the young master." Hearing this, Wu Qin sharply drew his sword. "Oh, is that so?" He spun the sword, throwing down the gauntlet. "When this duel ends, each of the remaining shipments will have to be returned." The crowd held its breath. The corporeal clan, Fire Flower with a sword, could a sect known for excellent unarmed technique possess the art of the sword? They looked confusedly at the two lying on the floor. Is the Fire Emperor praised for palm strikes, not for swordsmanship? Because Bo Chen anxiously asked again what happened this morning, and when he was advised to run away, the young master flew into a rage and exploded. He cast a suspicious glance at him, and the boy, stammering, muttered that it was just a joke and insisted, "The young lord will definitely win." Mashi argued with himself whether to run, and Bo Chen doubted whether the young lord's madness was infecting him. No objections were heard. The drummer struck the drum and gave the signal for the official start. The clash thundered when Wu Qing rushed forward like a fierce tiger. Even Diabo and Mashi froze. They could not believe their own eyes. Everyone wondered where he got such strength, since he was constantly called crazy and never learned martial arts. Diabo gritted his teeth in anger as he was relentlessly pushed back. Trying to swallow it, he madly rushed forward, but it still looked childish. Although Diabo attacked again and again, Wu Qing parried every strike. Behind them, an explosion thundered, but they both continued to fight anyway. They continued to clash face to face, neither retreated. Seeing that they were still holding on, Chu Yan was stunned. Hua Wu had endured for so long. But she was firmly convinced that compared to the kung fu she had honed for years, Wu Qin decisively took the initiative and launched an attack on Diabo. Their weapons clashed again. Locked in combat, they trembled with fear. Then they separated and continued swinging their weapons, causing explosions one after another. As soon as they parted, Diabo instantly drew his weapon ready to defend. The slash caused a powerful explosion, and he was forced to raise his sword to block the strike. Diabo's eyes widened sharply in shock. He couldn't believe what a terrible blow it had withstood. He angrily surged forward, shouting that this time he would cripple Hua Wu-chin. Seeing Diabo rush forward with unwavering determination, Wu-chin decided to break his will. Nisa has murderous intentions and an old grudge in his bones. He lunged forward, confident in his skill. Both unleashed their signature moves, unwilling to yield. He instantly jerked aside, dodging Diabo's deadly strikes. Bachin panicked yet admitted Wu-chin was holding well, and Mashi tensed even more, certain he hadn't given his full strength. Hearing this, the man asked in surprise, and the boy explained that he had secretly seen him training hard, so soon even greater power might break out. Zhao Zhao felt that his current skills had already matched the opponents, although, probably, they still lacked the latest training. And Wu Qing just wiped the sweat and secretly decided, the opponent's strength doesn't matter. Then he lunged into attack again, firmly believing that he would eventually bring them all down. Like a storm, Wu Qing rushed forward, dived into a move, and spat, "You scoundrel." He stubbornly pushed forward, driven by his own excitement, whispering to himself, "I will do it." They stood face to face, the tension hung tight like a bowstring, and no one backed down. Wu Qing lunged forward and struck with his sword full of hatred. He was ready to defeat him at any cost. A guiding voice came from the tent, "Go straight east 5 miles. Then the voice ordered to turn aside, meet the camellia, and travel 3 more miles. Following Huan Feng's instructions, the carriage stopped in front of a secluded but picturesque tavern. Seeing the inn, the man sighed with relief. He had finally reached the place. Seeing that Dao Zhen and Su Yan were still asleep, he relaxed with relief. It meant delivering them had gone without problems. Before leaving, Huang Feng asked again, but Bosun stubbornly insisted on staying. He wanted to personally retrieve the body of the young master. He closed his eyes and stubbornly whispered, "I will personally escort young Master Hua the last stretch of the way." Failing to convince him, the man said goodbye and agreed to meet again at the agreed place. He raised his eyes to the sky and sighed quietly. He did not know what was right and what was not. Every time Wu Qing made a move, Diabo immediately responded. Green and red flashes, symbolizing their clash, exploded and flickered again and again. He thought Diabo may be young, but there is strength in him, he just lacks experience. 2 streams of murderous intent collided head-on. A cloud of dust and smoke rose in the air. The fighters and spectators below held their breath and watched every move tensely. The crowd gasped and murmured, how could they be equal? The young Master Hua even looked a bit better, and someone whispered, Diabo was once an external disciple of the Kongdong sect, but he clearly did not stand out in any special way. Diabo grits his teeth and endures the barrage of Wu Qin's attacks. Bo Xin shouted anxiously, and Masha hurriedly warned young Master Hua to dodge. Chu Yan stood aside and forced a smile, but it was clear he was tense. Wu Qin delivered the first strike of the 9 unmatched swords, the Vanguard Dep. Someone exclaimed in shock, and he really blocked it. An explosion sounded and he was thrown back a staff's length. He barely stayed on his feet. Diabo's cry burst out in fury, damn this madman. But Wu Chen did not wait. With a mocking smile, as if saying you're too slow, he delivered a decisive blow. While Diabo rushed into attack, he only gritted his teeth and looked helplessly. He performed the second move from the 9 unmatched swords, the soldier breaking technique. He panicked, not understanding why he was powerless against that attack. Never grasping the situation, he only stumbled in his thoughts. Unable to repel it, he took the full blow of the sinister Wu Qin. He stubbornly defended himself and did not want to admit it. Could it be that I lost to someone without an elixir field? In a moment, he swung his blade in one stroke, and one of Diabo's hands flew off. Falling in choking smoke, the sword and body collapsed like withered leaves. Bashin and Masha were covered in cold sweat and froze in shock. Diabo lay motionless, blood flowing from the severed hand. Someone asked. He raised it high and declared, "This is a blood debt for 17 years. He calmly replied that if Diabo belonged to the Qinghua Merchant Guild, they would simply find a way to sew the hand back on. He asked why it had to go so far. Wu Qin coldly snorted, "What did you say?" The man objected. The duel was already decided, and Wu Qin calmly cut in, "If so, then he also has something to say." He asked bluntly, "Did you really use the 7 wounds fist against a 5-year-old who did not know martial arts?" His voice was icy, and it ended a 17-year revenge. From now on, anyone who dares to provoke the clan of the body of the fiery flower will pay. He ordered them to prepare, then turned and walked away. Tears choked her, and she silently vowed never to forget this humiliation. The martial arts masters froze as if struck by lightning. Everyone's jaws dropped at what had happened. Only when Wu Qin raised his blade and rushed forward did the crowd erupt in cheers. The crowd buzzed. In a few quick moves, he dealt with the outer students of Kondong. His swordsmanship was strange, as if an unparalleled master had appeared. Masha and Boshin rushed after him, calling out, "We are returning to the residence," he said. Boshin was confused but obeyed anyway. Looking at his figure, the man silently thought, when did young Master Hua's shoulders become so broad? Suddenly he called the chief steward Du, who, startled by the surprise, immediately responded. He vaguely hinted at the matter that had caused the steward to panic and lose composure, wondering if young master had learned about the escape. He cleared his throat and asked if all the gold given to him had already been spent. The steward hesitated and said he had saved some. Wu Qin grumbled. On the way, he would drop by the sect of the guarding gates for money. Just as the butler decided it was all over, Wu Qin added, "One more thing." He said he didn't mind if Elder Zhao and the martial masters wanted to leave the clan. The steward froze as soon as he continued. But what if they dared to tear him away from his two relatives? Wu Chen coldly warned they would have to risk their lives. Huang Feng sat next to Dao Zhen and Su Yan. The girl grabbed his hair and scolded him fiercely. The boy puffed his cheeks and placed his hands on his hips, and Huang Feng quickly unfolded a pigeon blue letter to calm them before reading. Huang Feng shouted in panic, "Oh no," and scared the girl who was still holding his hair. He sighed heavily over the letter. The escape plan was exposed, so now they demanded that young Master Hua return immediately. Wu Qin spoke directly. As for the money, it was time to settle up. Boshin froze. Wu Qin coldly and emphatically declared his intention to deal with the sect of the Gate Guardians. Didn't he think so? He told the chief steward to rest calmly, but the steward was still worried. He saw that the young master was already different. Noticing his concern, Wu Qin said he was too worried, but the caretakers still warned him not to get involved with the sect of Su's assassins. Wu Qin reluctantly replied and walked away. Although he had already left, the manager did not take his eyes off, watching as he walked away and felt uneasy. Masha quietly asked if he really intended to go to the sect of the guarding gates, and he replied, "Yes, if we leave everything as it is, it will only get worse. Solve this now." He smiled and gently asked Masha to always stay close. The boy was embarrassed, but still obeyed. Zheng Bao came out to meet him, barely containing her surprise. He had appeared again completely unexpectedly. He remembered how he had injured the second young master Qing Hua, and Wu Qin simply said, "I am here to repay a debt." He looked around and teasingly said, "It's so quiet here when you are bankrupt." He behaved politely and said that the gamblers had come to watch his duel. Wu Qin nodded. He asked, "ULOT probably bet on me, right?" Zheng Bao panicked, bowed, and apologized, while Wu Qin coldly asked, "The odds were in my favor. Did you make good money?" Wu Qin continued sternly, "You profited because of me. Will you keep pretending nothing happened?" Although irritated, he still politely promised to repay the debt. Wu Qin barely smiled and sat down. "Good, I am glad to hear that." He looked at Wu Qin and felt he had become stronger and completely different, cold, composed. The aura of a deadly martial arts master stretched around. He asked where their big boss was, and Zhang Bao wearily asked in response, "Why?" Wu Qin slammed the table. "I don't like to ask twice." This round, pot-bellied man was the gang leader Kui Yangyi. Wu Qin mocked his head, which looked like an octopus. The leader did not argue. He only said he had heard of him, and this irritated Wu Qin. He snapped back. Offended by Wu Qin's insolence, the man exploded with rage. He shouted, "You speak boldly, coveting my goods. I am Haizi Yin from the Su assassin sect." Wu Qin thought he was from the Su assassin sect and angrily shouted, "Who allowed you to interfere? Do you want to die?" He lunged forward, shouting, "Come on, try to kill me." Wu Qin stood firm. Whoever dared to stand in his way would not escape. Jian recoiled in shock and did not dare to come closer. He forced a smile and secretly realized Wu Qin was no ordinary youth. He praised his courage, but Wu Qin snorted mockingly, "That old man is not scary." Irritated, the man lunged forward again and ordered Wu Qin not to be arrogant. When Ziying swung and lunged downward, Wu Qin instantly jumped up, dodging. The man sharply spun and with his hand like a blade, slashed across Wu Qin's neck. But Wu Qin easily dodged as if he wasn't even trying. The man was irritated and stunned. How could a child dodge so easily? Preparing for another strike, the man failed to react in time. Wu Qing's needle pierced straight into his eye, and he was seriously injured. Everyone around froze in shock silently, with mouths agape in surprise. No one dared to do anything. They just stood and watched as he tormented Ziying, which made him even more furious. He threatened that the Su assassin sect would retaliate, but Wu Qing just laughed. Oh, really? He even threatened Wu Qing's family, which made Wu Qing abruptly stop and glare him in the eyes. Wu Qing coldly said, "Let the assassin sect come, I will die here," and this made the man beg for mercy. He begged, promising wealth and beauties. Wu Chen smiled contemptuously. "Now you're scared." Ziying immediately handed over all his assets to Cheng. Cheng mockingly said that was good, the man is smart. Then he ominously threatened, "If that one does not cooperate, the wind will blow again through several more holes and the man will flee in terror." The old man was frightened, fell prostrate, and begged for mercy, but he himself was surprised that he also began to plead for his life. The frightened old man whispered that he would give all his property. He coldly said this property already belongs to him, and the man simply froze. He declared that the silver and crimes committed by that man equal his wealth. The man turned pale and agreed to give everything. Suddenly, he stabbed a needle into the old man's brain and coldly asked if he understood the words of others. He asked who stood above him. Zhangbao strangled his voice and stammered that he was the deputy leader of the sect, and he snorted, "So, it's you." Zhangbao instantly fell to his knees, begged for mercy, and swore that he would live honestly if spared. He asked how much the deceased's property was worth, and the man replied, "In total 4,000 gold taels." He asked about the gang's wealth. Zhang Bao revealed everything, at least 10,000 taels of gold and 500 taels of tribute. He quickly calculated in his head, 4,000 from the leader and 10,000 from the gatekeeper's sect, all of this is his. Adding another 500 taels as tribute and compensation, it comes to about 20,000 taels. Well, fair enough. The man hastily promised to prepare the papers. When he was told to resolve it right on the spot, he snapped, "Yes." He coldly threw out, "And now how much are your lives worth?" He said he would spare only that one man, and the crowd panicked. They dropped to their knees and begged for their lives. Standing before a pile of things, he said it was just loot from debt collection. He froze before the horde and hesitantly called the young master Hua. He reminded about sexual support from Guardian Gate. The man asked about alliances, and he replied, "No need to know." The man blurted out that Josie Kang from Scarlet Swords Act had sworn a brotherhood oath with Hazy Ying and Cheesy Ying. He froze in thought, Hazy Ying, the very one whose all 10 fingers are black. Boshin froze and asked. He nodded and explained how he stuck a chopstick into the man's eye. The man froze in shock. He whispered in a quiet voice, "It's hard to deal with such people, but if your restrictions appear, don't impose them on me, I will kill them all." He added, "Tonight prepare tender beef and don't forget to set the table for my family." The man thoughtfully looked through himself. Hazy Ying is famous throughout Sichuan, and this young master looked quite unremarkable. Could this really be the same former young master? Somewhere in the distance, a male voice authoritatively ordered to set up an ambush on the Fireflower body clan. The woman coldly cut off, saying that he was just a hired worker, and said nothing more. He said, "Understood, we will return the child by dawn, no killings." He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Hua Wu Chen, I will destroy everything dear to you right before your eyes." Once the Fireflower body clans shone incredibly brightly. The Flame Emperor earned honor throughout the martial arts world, and the arena was packed. Everyone came to see him. Even Tu Xuan from the Tang sect noted his character and fighting skills. In one generation, the Fireflower body clan grew so much that no one dared to underestimate it anymore. They kept the most powerful masters in fear, and the residents of West City joyfully greeted the clan members every time they appeared. But after the death of the Flame Emperor, new leaders emerged, both those who knew how to rule and those waiting in line for the throne. The clans slowly faded, and even the most loyal began to leave. The righteous saw him as a hero, and the enemies as an unparalleled demon king feared by all. Why did the silhouette of the young master evoke in him a memory of the ancient Fire Emperor? A sudden call tore him from reality, the chief steward. Boshin froze. "Why are you here alone? Where are the young master and the lady?" "We were informed that the assassins of the Qinghua Merchants Guild set up an ambush." Zhao Huangfeng and the fighters, risking their lives, held them back, but there were more of them. In panic, he shouted to pass the message to the young lord and rushed forward himself. They loudly responded in unison to the command, "Yes, Chief Steward. If you continue to resist, the children will die too," Huang Feng said, gasping with rage. He shouted a warning loudly, "Step back, don't cause chaos here." And this gave them the opportunity to unleash their attacks on him one after another. Scarhead ordered, "Take care of this side, leave one child alive, kill the rest." When the moment came, he raised his blade, "Die so you won't have time to see me." He put his palm under the blow and blood spurted from it. At the decisive moment, the attacker slashed again. Bashan did not have time to react and just stood, taking the blows. Falling to the ground before the children, the attacker was about to move on, deciding whom to kill and whom to spare. Dao Zhen stepped forward. The girl trembled and called him. He made a move. Do you want this? Then you will die alone. On his mad face they realized, isn't this Hua Wukin who has lost his mind? They argued killing Hua Wukin might not succeed, so they decided to block his path and kill him. Throwing himself into the attack, the man still threatened, you will not see the dawn, Hua Wuqin. He never learned to recognize the opponent's skill, he only managed to intimidate. The bald man panicked, what the hell was that? Yet still they clung to hope and rushed forward together, kill him. To give Wu Chen time to deal with them, he used the fifth form of the Sword of Nine Absolutes and crushed all who stood before him. This frightened the others. They looked at him in horror and wondered what kind of monster he was. Seeing that everyone was safe, especially the children, he finally exhaled. Only then did the little girl slowly open her eyes and look at him. Her brother covered his eyes. Don't look, Suyin said hoarsely. What are you doing? Is that Hua Wuchen? Did he defeat them all? But Dao Zhen is still covering his eyes. I told you don't look. Wu Chen asked anxiously, are you two okay? The boy stammered, I am okay. He softened, you must have been very scared. The boy shook his head, no, I am from the martial family. He ordered Elder Zhao take the wounded and the two children back to the manor. Yes, young master. The wounded were carried out. He returned to the last one. Well then. You were sent by a spy from the King Hua Trade Guild, weren't you? He panicked, you will really spare me, he barked sharply. Don't make me repeat myself. He confessed it was Fuchu Yan, head of the King Hua Trade Guild. She hired us through the Purple Forest Gang. He asked, will you really spare me? Wu Qing raised his sword and said, if you want to live, go and tell her this. Explain clearly how Hua Wukin from the Fire Flower Body clan destroyed her own people. When people saw how Wu Chen was walking down Blood Street, they whispered anxiously, calling him the madman of the Fire Flower clan. His illness was relentlessly worsening. When they saw him covered in blood on the avenue, no one dared to mock or just walk past. So Hua Wuchen, once he was called the Mad Young Master or the Maniac. Since then people spoke differently and began calling him the Hidden Dragon Sishian. As soon as she reached out to hug him, she was sharply pushed away. She hurriedly asked, is the young master normal again? Is he okay? He answered, yes. After that she asked, is everyone at the medical station? He nodded, yes, not everyone was fine. The second young master and the young lady were taken to the medical station to be revived. Wu Qing praised, good, go and prepare the bath now. He nodded, understood, I will do it. Under the quiet moon, Wu Chen sat in the bath, immersed in warm water. His face darkened and he forced himself to control his thoughts. The marshal's child should not have to endure this, but he did not want to show them the cruelty of the world. He wanted them to hear only honest words and see only good deeds. The next day at the pharmacy, voices broke into alarm. What? The red burning heart method. Wu Qing replied, yes, exactly. Why did you flinch? Did I say something wrong? Putting that aside, Huan Feng asked, may I ask why you need that mental method? Wu Qing teased, fearing that I would tear it to pieces again. He felt awkward. No, that's not it. Wu Qing said sternly, do not start learning this secret manuscript now. From tomorrow, I will personally take charge of teaching both children. He remarked, I can see from your face that you don't believe me. He objected, no, not at all. Wu Qing sighed, trying to calm him. Don't worry, Zhao Huanfeng will be fine. Yes, understood. After the conversation, he pulled out a stack of papers. It was a copy of the thinking method. Wu Qing grabbed it and left. I'm going rest. They bowed with deep respect. Young master, take care. After he left, Huan Feng sighed anxiously. Will everything be all right? Bo Zun reassured him. Don't worry, the young master showed powerful swordsmanship. It saved us and sped up our recovery. Huan Feng felt a bit relieved. His recent madness had subsided, body and mind realigned and almost fully recovered. The hermit's method probably worked. Can this method really boost combat skills so quickly? I've never heard of such a thing. Bashan also doubted. Such a sudden leap could only happen because of the fated Cu, a rare encounter. This is not a simple coincidence, probably an encounter with an extraordinary master. No other reason. Finally, it seems that the 17-year shadow pressing over the Fireflower Body clan is beginning to retreat. At the training ground, Wu Qing taught the children the butterfly dance or the resonance of the yellow bee. Su Yan blinked. Brother, what did you say? He explained more simply. When the enemy freezes at your feet, move lightly and gracefully like a butterfly in the wind. I created and honed this basic technique in bloody battles. The children are simply delighted with it. Saiyan pondered, strange, you have never fought in a real battle. Dojin gave a sign, idiot, don't say that out loud. Wu Chen cleared his throat, enough theory now in practice, hit me with simple fists. Because the children just fought out of habit, without real technique or form. So what are these two doing? How clumsy their movements are. Are they really descendants of the martial family, or just still too young? Still, it's funny that they can't even maintain balance or control their own bodies. The children, surprised, released their hands from him. He pressed his head with his palm, tired. I have a headache, let's stop training today, the girl worried. Young master, are you okay? We didn't hit your head. He said, you have more potential than I expected. First, strengthen your bodies, then move on to more complex techniques. And now go rest, see you tonight. His praise ignited admiration in the children. That night they could not fall asleep. But the children did not even suspect this. Wu Chen was still grumbling that it would not be easy. He laughed, imagining that the master probably endured a lot of difficulties. The students' guilt cut the clan's fighting vein, but I will restore its glory and revive the traditional martial arts of the Fire Flower Body clan. I will find that scoundrel with the cursed mark without a blade, the one-eyed demon god Zhen Tian, whom I could not defeat in my past life. He froze in a ready stance. He would train. Whatever happens, I will kill him. He gave in to inertia, and each of his swings became stronger than the previous one. That afternoon, Wu Qin trained tirelessly and joyfully with the sword. Wang Feng, looking healthier, said, I'm back. Masha was overwhelmed with panic. Well done, and that's all. Do you understand how hard it was for us to work to protect the second young master and the young lady? He sighed irritably. Who gave you the right to act independently? If I had been late even for a moment, you would already be lying in coffins. Say that again, and I will be the first to send you there, understood? Boshin bowed. Forgive me, young sir. Huan Feng. Yes, young sir. At that moment a strange voice sounded. Now he is much better. I told you only I can cure the young sir. A few more sessions and he will fully recover. It was Du Yangshu. Masha was breathless. Ha, isn't that him? Wu Qing boldly cut in. Who are you? This is not charity. Get out of here. Masha rushed to intervene. Wait, sir, this is the Taoist who saved you. Masha spoke humbly. Forgive me, master of the blade. The young master was not fully recovered, yet he quietly coughed several times. He had not finished when Wu Qin kicked Masha in the side. Step back. He awkwardly forced a hospitable smile on his face. Oh, sorry, I did not recognize you. After such a long journey, you are probably deathly hungry. Taoist, come inside and rest. His hand slid over the shoulder. A few days ago, Masha said that the Taoist boasted. He is the heir of the Wudang line and once treated the second young sir, and the steward paid generously to invite him. Returning to the present, Wu Qing barely smiled and feigned warmly inviting him inside. Yang Shu, considering himself a guest, entered quite naturally. But he had no idea how treacherous the person who brought him here was. Wu Qin changed his tone and asked, You are the heir of the Wudang line, right? He had no doubts and he answered calmly. Yes, only I inherit the essence of the Wudang line, Baixian. He showed a deadly smile and sneered contemptuously. You are the one everyone talks about. Strange that Wudang has someone with such a big nose like Era. Because of this, he turned pale. Before he could finish speaking, Wu Chen barked, Hey, big-nosed, confess now or I'll send you to the ancestors. He stubbornly clung to the false title and tried to explain something, but fell silent as soon as Wu Qin drew his blade. If you are a disciple of Wudang, you must dodge a few simple sword strikes, he heard, and fear made him flinch several times. Wu Qin instantly lowered the sword down to test him. He was so scared that he wet himself, rushed forward and fell, while Masha nearby could only stand and watch. Wu Qin suddenly snapped, Shut up and bring me a ladle of water. In a moment, a large ladle of water slapped and the water flew down with a clang. It turned out Wu Qin was not ceremonious. He grabbed the ladle and poured it right on his back to sober him up. Yangshu roared angrily, but Wu Qing immediately grabbed him by the fake beard. He pulled so hard that veins appeared on his arm, and his eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. It turned out that it was just a fake beard, bought at the market for 36 coins. Wu Chen sneered, using 502 glue from Troop de Bang holds well, that's just a trick. 4 people stood before Yangshu and demanded, How dare you deceive the Marshall family, old and still cunning? Masha whispered worriedly and Vuchin, thoughtful, said, Of course we can't just leave it like this. His face became demonic. He threatened to cut off limbs and he panicked and began begging for mercy. Wu Qing lowered his voice and joked, Who will pay if I kill you? I'll just cut off a few necessary parts. He trembled, begged to keep his body intact, and swore to return all the money he had extorted by fraud. Wu Qing nodded but added, "Count the fee for limbs and valuables too," and in panic agreed to everything. He smiled contentedly and again began demanding ransom for limbs and valuables. He panicked and gave everything. After bargaining, Wu Qing called the butler and asked how much the fraudster took. Boshin replied, 50 taels of gold. Wu Chen sneered contemptuously, "Pathetic, at your age you are still so naive." Boshin awkwardly began to explain, but Wu Qin sharply interrupted, "Enough, let's go, I don't want to hear this anymore." Wu Qin tensely said, "Here is the starting price, 50 gold taels," and fell to his knees. "I don't have that kind of money right now unless I give it to Jin Yan." He snapped, "There 2 hours, lead the way." Huan Feng followed and shouted, "Enough, your hands are injured and you still ask for legs. What do you need them for? Help me clean up the corpses. Don't make up nonsense, stay obediently inside." That made him fall silent. He angrily left and the swindler fussed behind, confused. Yes, yes. Boshin and Huan Feng stood behind and were still stunned by Wu Chen's disgusting behavior. Boshin thought to himself, "Don't worry, this man is no longer the young master we once knew." He muttered under his breath, "Damn, I should have borrowed a fresh horse. How poor this clan is that they don't even have a horse." When he approached, the man stammered, "This is my carriage, please sit down, sir." Wu Qin said with a sneer, "Ah, you cheated for a decent sum. A rare 4-horse carriage for 50 gold taels, this makes perfect sense." The carriage was too pompous for their clan, shiny and luxurious. He stammered, "The skin was tightly wrapped. I travel a lot and sit in the carriage for hours." Wu Qin teased, "So devoted to your work, why not do something useful?" He bowed his head and said, "One day I will do it, sir." He lay down and quietly said, "I will nap a little, wake me when we arrive." The man obediently said, "Yes, please rest." Then he quietly slipped outside while Wu Qin was still asleep. While he was sleeping, they pulled him outside and gathered to deal with him. Wu Qin was so furious he almost went bald. Another gritted his teeth, "Damn, another one." As if brooding over it, he raised his fist and muttered, "Don't blame me." Suddenly the enemy had a third, involuntarily alert eye. Wu Qin parried with his blade and frowned. "What is this? Not a bad greeting." The blade hit the big boss and he instantly raised his hand to block the strike. The main boss was boiling with anger. The hidden dragon from Sichin lived up to his name. Wu Qin smiled mockingly. When did Jin Yan turn into an abandoned forest? He left, so from the very beginning was I chosen as the target. At first, it seemed like some petty swindler, but it turned out to be serious. As soon as boredom struck, Wu Chen suddenly burst with wild power. Wu Chen instantly released an aura. "I am bored too." Wu Qin feared no one. "Your gaze is disgusting, like a devil from hell. How strong is this demonic aura?" He sharply drew his blade, "And you have a real arsenal of weapons." A powerful aura emanated from him, proof of his strength. They saw the big boss pushed far back into an open patch of land. They shouted in rage, "That scoundrel attacked only one person, save him." Blocking and strategizing, "Damn, he rips like an iron mace." In a moment, the big boss was shoved. He fell flat on his back. He kicked him right in the face, and he rolled on the ground. They pretended to be frightened. The third brother was about to make his move. The advantage in strength pushed Wu Qin to target the weakest, the second brother. He sharply lowered the blade. The third brother hastily raised his sword to block the strike. The sword was too thin, and Wu Qin instantly split it in half. He chopped straight at the head. The man didn't manage to do anything. Almost killed, the third brother managed to tilt his head and dodge. But immediately after that, Wu Qin struck him with a powerful kick right in the stomach. Looking at them, he hesitated. Yes, this was demonic kung fu. Why had such arts appeared on the Central Plains? He sighed. He didn't want to kill these younger disciples practicing demonic arts. What else could he do? Yanshu cursed himself. He couldn't believe that the 4 demons of Qingshan were so decisively defeated. The big boss admitted, "After a few moves we realized we couldn't match you." Wu Qin smirked. "Why drag it out? Enjoy the defeat." He nodded. "All right, I'll spare you," but then coldly added, "I'll cripple your danshin and cut your meridians." He knelt down again and bowed. "We were only following orders, please do not destroy our path as martial arts masters." Wu Qing teased, "You still whine like a child at your age." He asked, "Who taught you martial arts?" The man froze and only muttered, "Huh, what do you mean?" He asked again, "Who is your master?" His demonic aura raised even more suspicion. Hardly anyone on the Central Plains has such an aura. "Who taught you demonic arts?" He confessed. "Even when he died, we never learned his real name." Wu Qing was irritated. A disciple who doesn't even know his teacher's name. The big boss trembled with fear. "He forbade us from looking for other disciples." He was still dissatisfied. I understand. You needed to train calmly, not become bandits. The big boss turned pale and immediately denied. Bandits? No, we just sometimes helped brothers with business. Wu Qing suspiciously asked, business? Didn't you know what he was like and still helped? And he stubbornly replied, we thought saving people was right, wasn't it? He was fed up enough. Get out of here, stop serving him. If I see you again, consider yourselves dead. They bowed in a row. Thank you, sir. He said to Yangshu, you must pay ransom for these guys with your life and compensate for the loss of my energy and spirit. He blinked. Psychic trauma, that is also taken into account. Watching the carriage disappear around the corner, the big chief recalled his master's words. We are slow and trusting, choose comrades carefully. When you come across a person who is strong and honest, follow them and serve them. He smiled. Good, my intentions really do coincide with yours. On the road, the carriage suddenly stopped. Wu Qing thought in surprise. Why did it stop again? Suddenly they knelt before him again and exclaimed, older brother. We swear loyalty and give ourselves to the clan of the body of the fiery flower. Accept us. Wu Chen curled his lip. Were you beaten so badly that you lost your mind? Who is the older brother here? They replied, we are not even 30 yet. Have mercy on us, older brother. Wu Qing froze in surprise. What? You are under 30? Incredible. It seemed the horses were about to charge. They roar incessantly. Now 5 stubborn men clung tightly, incredibly insolent. Wu Qing still doubted. Seriously, he is 30? He looked even older than me. After a short pause, he dismissed these doubts as if he had never asked. Densu had not yet recovered from the spectacle when Wu Qing instantly emptied him. On Wu Qin's side, he could not comprehend how a demonic cultivator became a fighter in a declining orthodox clan. It was absurd. They say the teacher said demonic cultivation is a way of life and who you are, not a sect. Wu Qin was surprised. Why would a righteous clan accept demonic practitioners? Isn't that a disgrace? Others chirped. Those who spoke fell silent. Their mouths were bound, skulls smashed, and teeth knocked out. 4 looked about 20, but were not at all who they pretended to be. He quietly sneered. You burst in with such arrogance, you'll get a lesson like those I once valued, and coldly snorted, if you want to serve another clan. Lay down your life for every one of my orders. There is no freedom. For the clan's honor, obey like a dog. They answered in unison. Clearly we give all decisions to the big brother. He turned pale. Fine, do as you wish. From now on you are warriors of the Fire Flower clan. They rejoiced and shouted, thank you, elder brother. He frowned. Don't call me elder brother, call me young lord. And they replied, yes, young lord. Wu Chen peeked out and said with surprise, so this is your estate. Yangshu, yes, please come in. About 20-year-old boys signaled to open the gates, imitating Wu Qin's manner. The servant asked, what's going on here? Yangshu sharply waved his hand. Don't ask. Quickly prepare food in the annex. Wu Qin waved off. Not yet. First show me the treasury. He obeyed. Yes, this way. Wu Qin thought, so you live easily on silver stolen from the world. Suddenly, someone appeared in the middle of the road and asked, what happened, brother? Something's wrong. This man was by Satan. Yunshu quickly whispered, brother T, it's nothing. Come in. The other, with suspicion in his voice, asked, what are you hiding? Tell me, who are these people? Wu Qin interrupted, I told you, come inside. What does metal and some strange things have to do with this? From their clothing, it's clear they are guests of the swindler. Guests do not interfere in the affairs of the estate. He hurriedly rushed forward and blocked Wu Qin's way. You brat, your tongue is a real disgrace. Seeing this, the boss was already about to cause trouble, but Yun Shu instantly stopped him and shouted that they were his guests and this was just a misunderstanding. He awkwardly spoke, introducing them. These are 4 demons of Chengxiang and the young master of the Fire Flower clan. Sutin smiled lightly. Here he is, the furious young lord raging over the Fire Flower, says he is orthodox but scares ordinary people. Interesting. Wu Qin did not want to argue. He smiled and asked him to step aside, but that man still mocked, claimed that orthodox sects engage in demonic arts and mocked their ancestors. Seeing the frightened Yangshu, he quietly and soothingly whispered that Bisatan was nearby. He grabbed a weapon and wildly tried to cut off that guy's head just for fun. He stood waiting for orders, but Wu Qin simply ordered to retreat, let him handle it himself. He stood before the Sultan and with a mocking smile said, even a dog knows its master. He teasingly beckoned, come here, good little dog. He lunged at Wu Qin, and Wu Qin raised his blade to parry the strike. He noticed faster, but your inner strength is too weak. Before Wu Qin could make another move, he suddenly sharply changed direction. Seeing the blade near his throat, the man was forced to lean back to dodge. He barely recovered when Wu Qin immediately spun him in continuous attacks. The spectators whispered, just a little more and it's over. Once pressure is applied, escaping becomes almost impossible. They said Wu Qin's blade is harder than an iron mace. Sooner or later both the sword and his head will crack. As predicted, the Sultan's sword cracked in half. The strike caused heavy damage, and the man staggered to the side. Wu Qing turned around and threw to the second brother, "Give me the iron mace." Grabbing the club, he glared fiercely at the man, and the memory of his ancestors' insult flared up again. He said coldly, "Fine, let your screams echo near the grave of your ancestors." He had not finished speaking when Wu Chen struck him fiercely, and the assistants instantly broke into a sweat. Wu Qing beat him like a madman. Despite the cries about broken bones, he coldly said, "Soon you will lie in the same grave. A few broken bones mean nothing." He laughed loudly while beating him. They froze in silence. He really knew how to deal with people. The third brother looked worried and asked, "He will stop breathing soon, right?" Yangshu rushed forward to stop him, begging, "Young master, spare him, I will redeem him." Wu Chen looked and asked, "Really?" He insisted. "He has connections with a demon that pierces the sky and is considered righteous, so he cannot die in my estate." He, shocked, whispered, "How much do you need? I will pay, please spare him." Wu Qing smiled and asked, "Oh, I thought you were hopelessly relying on this man." He smiled, "You should have said so earlier." The man looked scared and thought, "This one is truly crazy." When the door closed, he looked back and asked dryly, "All right, it seems you have gathered quite a lot." Wu Qing glanced satisfiedly around the hall. "All right, let's start the count. 4 men behind you, 500 taels each." Yan Xiu froze in surprise. He said he would take them as soldiers. How did he come to that? He snapped during the continuation. "Next, your limbs 200 taels, your life 300. And finally added, for your talkative brother 1,000 taels, and for the spirit and strength I lost today another 3,000. He issued a challenge. "Let's settle this cleanly hand over all valuable items now. Anyone against?" Yunshu gritted his teeth and shouted, "Of course not, this one is worse than mountain bandits." He reminded them, "Don't miss anything. They worked and practiced." "Yes, young master." He looked intently at the wall and couldn't understand what kind of screen it was. It emitted a strange aura. Wu Qing became more and more confused in his thoughts. Could this be an illusion? Yan Xiao shyly asked, "Young master, do you like the screen?" Yu Qi examined the screen carefully. It seemed strange to him, but he remained silent and only shook his head. He didn't like it very much. The man continued, "This screen was made by Master Zhang Sushan. You have sharp eyesight, young master." He said, "The young master's room is empty. Take it if you want." He nodded. "All right, I'll take it." The man thought to himself, "This boy is greedy." Soon the carriage was piled outside with gold and silver. Wu Qing asked, "You don't need this carriage anymore, right? I'll take it." Yun Shu bowed his head and replied respectfully, "Of course it is a great honor for us that the young master uses it." Wu Chen shouted, "All right, let's go." As soon as he finished, the wheels immediately started moving. He bowed from afar and shouted, "Farewell," and ahead, leading the way, Wu Qing loudly exclaimed, "Live well, we'll see each other again." Seeing those treasures, Yangshu climbed up and shouted, "See, you've already grabbed enough. Are you even human anymore?" His eyes filled with tears and he whispered, "How can the sky be so cruel? What did I do to deserve this madman?" Masha froze and exclaimed, "Wait, what's going on here?" He opened his mouth, stared and asked, "What happened?" Mashi asked in surprise, "Young master, where did this money come from? Did someone die because of it?" Wu Qing calmly replied, "No, you said we lacked funds, so I got them." He asked Masha, "How old do you think they are?" Judging by their builds, these were not ordinary men. He guessed, "Look closely, they are all over 40. This news will definitely interest them." Then he asked, "Where are the chief steward Du and Elder Zhao? I didn't see them when I arrived." Masha said, "Oh, important guests have arrived. They are in the front hall and asked to be taken to the young master." He became alert. More guests, or did scammers come to take the money? But quickly composed himself. "No, don't be afraid." Quickly, Wu Qing fluttered with anger. What kind of tricks are these? Are these old men causing trouble again? When he entered, everyone bowed in unison. The young lord had arrived. He stood up and introduced himself. "Young lord, these are 3 merchants who helped the Fire Flower clan in difficult times." Another introduced himself. "I heard the hidden dragon has awakened. The rumors turned out to be true. I am Bang Guan Wu from the Yan Merchants Guild." Another respectfully said, "I am Dong Guan Yu, leader of the Boundless Trade Alliance. I am glad to see the young master safe," added Duten. "Long time no see. I am Hong Duten, head of the Golden Treasury." He responded with a salute. There is no need for such formality. He introduced himself and said, "I am Huo Chin. Thank you all for coming." Then he poured tea and began, "Well then." He sharply asked, "You three came to demand the Fire Flower clan's debts, didn't you?" Bong Won-woo denied this. "No, we are not forcing repayment of debts. We only came to greet the young master. Sorry if we disturbed you." Wu Qin calmly said, "Thank the merchant for the help, but the debts need to be clarified. I have just restored my spirit and do not yet know the whole situation, so please forgive my shortcomings." He continued, "I want to know what the total debt of the Fire Flower clan is." Bo Xin interrupted, "Young lord, before talking about repayment, we need to state exact figures." Dong Yuanyu said, "The figures must be accurate, young lord." He exhaled and added, "All right, though unpleasant, let them state the sums." They told in turn, 5,300 stories for the Guild of Merchants Yan, 3,200 stories for the Golden Treasury, 1,900 stories for the Alliance of Boundless Trade. He counted a total of 10,400 taels. Someone spoke and Boshin slammed the table. "Now it is clear, the Qinhua Merchants Guild has long oppressed us." He asked evenly, "What does the Qinhua Merchant Guild want?" Bang Guangwu said, "They want to collect debts that your families owe us. This will harm you, so we firmly refuse." Dong Yuanyu continued, "After the clash, the Qinhua Merchants Guild threw huge resources to crush competitors and monopolize supplies, breaking ties with other trade unions. They even shamelessly poached branch leaders to their side." Huang Feng listened, worried, never imagined things would get so serious. He added, shamefully admitting, "But we no longer have the strength to resist." Guan Yu said, "Before giving them the right to collect debts, at least warn the young master." Wu Qing sincerely thanked them. "We are deeply grateful for your concern, and the thought of what you had to go through weighs heavily on my heart." He said sadly, "Those who held on to the Fire Flower clan when it was at its peak have left only Elder Zhao and Chief Manager Du remain." He sincerely thanked them for all three staying to protect the family. He slammed the table. "I am not well versed in literacy, but I know one thing well: a debt of gratitude must be fully repaid." He promised, "I will immediately repay all the debts of the Fire Flower clan to you." Everyone, full of surprise, asked, "Is this really possible?" Wu Qin resolutely swore, "I will return every percent and repay every favor. I will free your merchant associations from the oppression of the Qinghua Guild." "Young Master Hua, are you really going to use force to help us?" Wu Qin responded instantly. "Of course." Bo Xin flinched. "Young Master Hua." He warned anxiously, "What are you saying? Do you know who is behind them?" Bo Xin emphasized, "The Kongdong sect is one of the most powerful fighting factions." Wu Qin did not flinch. "So the elders are pulling the strings?" He called back young Master Hua. Guan Yu interrupted, "Chief Steward, do it, don't worry." He reassured, "If we write off the debt, they will lose the reason to bother us. This is already a great favor, so we will not dare to directly challenge Kongdong sect." Everyone smiled. "Thank you for your words, young master. We feel much lighter at heart." They said goodbye. "We also say goodbye. May your home prosper and may the road be safe." With capture, he watched as they retreated. The Qinghua Merchants Guild is truly formidable. Wu Qin ordered Du, Chief Administrator, gather all intelligence on those rats, their money, territories, goods, and contact the Kongdong sect. And Bo Qin set off young Master Hua. He raised the alarm, weighty or serious. With Wu Qin it sounds firm. "I am not joking. Offenses, bloody deaths, or service all must be clarified." Wu Qin angrily blurted out, "You know what they have done. If we let this pass now, next time they will aim straight for our throat. No, or risk everything or lose everything." He said, "For over 10 years they helped us, and in return now they will no longer help us." Wu Qin smiled, "So we need to repay properly at least once. They will brush off my words as the ravings of a madman." He gazed into the distance. "Let fate take its course." At that moment someone shouted, "Young Master Hua, the task is completed." He replied, "Good, gather here." Wu Qin reminded, "Present them properly. They are the elder and the chief administrator." Both shuddered. "Young Master Hua, yes, it is them." He announced, "From today they are combat warriors joining the Fire Flower clan." They responded with deep respect. "4 demons of Chongshan, have mercy on them." Wu Qin indicated, "Do not be surprised yet. What comes next will shock you even more, all of them." He continued, "They are all younger than me." They froze in shock. "What?" They stood still. "Incredible, that can't be." 4 demons of Changshan went for food, and 1 froze stunned by our presence. They froze and exclaimed, "Young Master Hua, don't you know about the reputation of the 4 demons of Chunshan? Why did you accept them into the clan without consulting us?" Wu Qin coldly asked Bo Xin, "And when you were going to secretly take my 2 younger disciples, did you ask me about it?" Bo Xin stammered and whispered, "About that." He said coldly, if I nod they will stay, if not they will leave. I am the one who should lead the clan. Wu Qin wanted to buy livestock, but Mashi hesitated because they had no money. Masha reminded that just over 10,000 taels of silver had gone to pay off debts. Bo Xin exclaimed that swindler hid quite a lot. Huang Feng doubted. Wu Qin replied, I did not kill him, I took back what was mine. And what is that? Wu Qin asked sincerely. They say it is supposedly a masterpiece of Zhang Sushan, and everyone froze in surprise. He said, even if they sell it cheaply for 90 taels, I will take it. Bo Xin nodded, it really looks genuine. Wu Chen asked, is this enough for meat? He replied, more than enough. Then Wu Chen shouted, then go and buy it now. Wu Qing said, you are probably wondering why I called you at dawn. He said, after recent events, you all need special training. He insisted, the foundation of swordsmanship is the body. A weak body nullifies training. He said, under your feet are sacks of rice, 144 jin each. They will be your training partners. He clearly said, this is not for food. Whoever steals it will have no claims against me. He glared angrily, there is always someone trying to steal rice, and it is terribly annoying. Dajin asked why the sacks were so small. Sahian replied, no more than 15 jin in each. Boran asked, so what are we supposed to do with these sacks? They both panicked. Young Master Hua, this will have to be carried by two. He hissed coldly, shut up and lift them, or I will beat you until nothing remains of your armor. Wu Chen threatened, my sword is dull and does not cut cleanly, but with one strike I will shatter your bones. He reminded, choose either carry a sack of rice or come up here and fight me. 4 men reluctantly slung the sacks of rice onto their shoulders. Wu Qing stepped forward, form, are you mocking me? He pressed close to their faces, what a cowardly tactic, each of you has 3 sacks. He shouted at the top of his voice, whoever disagrees come out and fight me here. The 4 clenched their teeth together and shouted, endure. Everyone shuddered and strained with all their might, supporting the sacks of rice. Bashan was stunned. What is this? Asked Huang Feng. Young Master Hua, what will you do to us? He praised, good, as soon as you decide to carry this, you will manage. He reminded them, I can do this, stop thinking you are weak. Wu Qing urged, keep going, failure means death, what is impossible here? He almost screamed wildly, start doing 200 repetitions, sit down and stand up, follow me. There was no choice, they shouted in unison. Tighten your abs, lift your little snakes, and do it again if, of course, you really don't want to die. At that moment the elder brother, drenched in sweat, realized, what is this feeling? As if the whole body is falling apart from feet to head. No, if I can't endure this, the young master might beat me to death. Then he clenched his muscles and deliberately tensed like a maniac bodybuilder, shouting as if afraid that Wu Qin would turn him into mint candies. Meanwhile, Huang Feng went outside, bewildered by what he saw. What kind of training is this? Just watching is already exhausting. Will these fragile bodies endure? He still couldn't believe his eyes. The young master of the Yanghuo clan is now acting like a child scaring an ogre. You call yourselves warriors, but you spent everything on the Yanghuo clan's food, right? And now you whine about this ordinary training? Such people do not deserve mercy. Every coward pretending to be weak will die here. His face turned pale. He could neither eat nor rest, only counted to 200. Wu Qin said mockingly, pathetic. We've been warming up all day, and with such endurance you still dare to dream of martial arts. But in a moment he threw out a line that made everyone cringe. Instead, from now on you will become one with those rice bags. Eat with them, relieve yourself with them, carry them during training, and even sleep with them. You will always carry a rice bag, Wu Qin asked and answered himself. And for how long? He called, hey, older brother, and he immediately responded, yes. Wu Qin ordered, bring ropes and tie everyone up. Whoever removes the ropes will lose part of their life. Remember this. Even the older brother's nostrils externally contracted and he quietly cried inside, I have never met that man, but today I want mom so much. In a moment he ordered Masha, from now on make sure the children get beef at every meal. The boy blinked and replied, understood. Shall I prepare a bath for you? He shook his head. No, I'll say later. After that Wu Chen entered the room and coldly closed the door. Because he himself was exhausted after training with them, yet never complained even once. At the banquet, everyone had to carry those bags of rice on their backs. Even the children were no exception. Their hands trembled, and their legs were completely exhausted. None of them even held chopsticks properly, let alone could put food in their mouths. Meanwhile, the second brother grew pale, stared at his hands trembling like an old man. He looked at the fourth brother and sharply exclaimed, isn't it strange? I train my legs, but my hands tremble. The fourth frowned and blurted out in response, do you feel it too? I noticed it earlier and it's somehow strange. Even when I trained with our master, this never happened, here neither. This made the third brother break out in a cold sweat and want to give up. The next day torment, no, the training continued. Why aren't you pressing properly? You still have 120 left. Focus, do you hear me? What is this? They even opened their mouths wide. Do they really do that? What kind of monsters are these? And again the next day. Wu Chen made them squat, dragging sacks of rice. You will become ducks. Repeat after me, quack quack. Surprisingly, they obeyed. The quacking aroused pity in passers-by. How humiliating. The third brother quacked the loudest and thought, what kind of nonsense is this? Move faster. Do you want to train all day? Those who are slower will be tied with another sack. Their faces showed, their patience ran out, they desperately needed the toilet. The children did not give up and ran after Wu Qing to training 50. He looked around with interest. These children are doing better than expected. A ruthless thought flashed through his mind. Should I increase the difficulty a bit? The elder brother Raisak, with a rope thrown over and tied to his shoulders, stared confusedly. Here, are you sure, young master? He smiled ominously. Of course you must be hot. It was even 1,000 times bigger than Mrs. Tan's instant noodle pot. But Suhyun was delighted. A waterfall? That must be incredible, and Daejin was a little worried about his native person Suhyun. The girl suddenly realized, what about him? It looked like he couldn't swim at all. Daejin whispered to her, Suhyun, he says this is training, but isn't it absurd? Suhyun wondered, should she tell him that he can't swim? At that moment, Bai Xin and Huang Feng appeared. Young master, it's impossible, the current is too strong. This place is famous for taking lives. It's dangerous here even if you carry nothing. Wu Qing, bored, didn't even bother to answer. Come on, you old folks worry too much. Don't worry, I checked everything myself. Bai Xin stammered. Master, since when have you been training like this? Wu Qing was silent, then addressed the others. Hey, all of you, will you swim across the river or fight me? Choose wisely. Then Wu Qing quickly jumped down, and while the others hesitated, he shouted, I'll go first, young master. The second brother trembled and asked, Elder, what should we do? Gente has already gone ahead, and the elder, gritting his teeth, replied, I know crossing the river has a better chance of survival than fighting the young master. I'll go too. So the elder brother and the second brother decided to jump, and then everyone rushed in, and this confused Huan Feng. Meanwhile, only the third brother and one more remained on the shore. What a horror. The second brother urged the man ahead of him, if you can't step aside. Xiu Yan happily followed and began to calm down. Don't worry, your brother won't beat you to death. Then she added, I'll go first, and this made Dao Zhen confused. Wait. The boy forcibly calmed himself. I could never tell him this. I am a warrior of the Yanghuo clan. He accelerated, jumped high, and landed flawlessly. It's a trifle. This stunned Huan Feng, young master Dao Jin. Wu Qing stepped ahead and threatened the younger ones. If you fall, you will really die. Move your arms and legs, don't stop. At the same time, Daejin slowly surfaced and gasped for air convulsively. He urged himself, I can do it, I can do it. But already in a moment, the great panic could not hold and subsided. His face was covered with sweat, and panic froze in his eyes. The tension around rose to the limit. The young man, along with the heavy cargo, plunged to the bottom, leaving a bloody trail. A desperate cry broke out from the shore. The boy was being carried away by the current. HWA Dajin struggled with the waves that lifted him and carried him straight to the waterfall. He took a last desperate breath before diving. The bearded warrior, without any hesitation, rushed into the whirlpool to help. The man stubbornly cut through the water despite his own heavy burden. The rescuer gripped the boy with a death grip amid the chaos. Dajin convulsively gulped air, trying not to faint. It was too late to turn back. The warrior ordered to hold on and push through. Another wave engulfed them completely amid the boy's frightened shout. They dived into the very epicenter of the current, avoiding sharp rocks. A fierce and silent battle with the element began. Finally, the elders on the shore noticed the fugitives from death. Exhausted fingers convulsively clung to the slippery stones on the land. The warrior pulled the boy onto the shore and, praising his endurance, did not take his eyes off him. Dripping with water, the exhausted Dajin bowed in deep gratitude. The rescuer only barely smiled in response to the youth's words. Unexpected footsteps nearby made the warrior become alert. The elder brother made sure that the little one was all right. The warrior warned his brother against unnecessary risk, reminding him of the importance of their mission. Dajin silently realized the full weight of his responsibility. Determination flared in the youth's gaze, no longer to be a burden. He struggled to stand, holding the load, and declared himself a warrior of the Yamhua clan. A barely noticeable approving smile appeared on the elder brother's face. The cliffs trembled from the excited cry of the bearded warrior. Witnesses of the event on the shore finally sighed with relief. Ahead loomed the misty peaks of the next difficult trials. Fingers bit into the sharp rock on the path all the way to the very summit. The silent, exhausting ascent continued relentlessly. One of the warriors warned with a smile, a fall meant certain death. The neighbor on the rock fiercely cursed the madness of his leader. Suddenly, the dissatisfied climber lost his grip and fell down. The man plunged into the abyss with a desperate scream. At the last moment, someone's hand gripped the rope with a deathly grasp. The rescuer froze from the wild jerk, barely holding the weight. The man above the chasm begged for rescue in tears. The warrior clenched his teeth and with his last strength held his comrade over the abyss. The mountains trembled from the swearing and the stern order to immediately cling to the rock. The training turned into an exhausting run under the scorching sun. Eyewitnesses compared the warriors of the Manhwa clan to those condemned to execution. Dajin and the young Soyeon barely stayed on their feet under the weight of the load. The girl closed her eyes, losing the last crumbs of strength. Soyeon fell face first into the dust amid the anxious shouts of comrades. The elder brother instantly turned at the rumble behind him. The exhausted child begged the elder, "Carry her at least a little." The elder's face twisted with indignation and shock. Despite his anger, he picked up the girl and kept running, dragging a double burden. The other warriors irritably looked back at the delay in the ranks. Brother with a crazy smile reminded, "For weakness one will have to pay with life." Frightened by the threat, the men with their last strength rushed forward. After the finish, exhausted fighters fell motionless to the floor. One of them remained kneeling under the weight of the sack. The comrade nearby was not going to hide his irritation. He fiercely scolded the loser for constant lagging behind. Rage boiled. No one was going to suffer because of someone else's weakness. The critic advised the weakling to simply crawl away from the clan. But the answer about the murder made the angry warrior freeze. The exhausted man said evenly, he had long dreamed of leaving this path. The blonde warrior trembled with fear and did not know how to report to the lord. The partner only mocked, comparing him to a stinking corpse. The enraged fighter grabbed his comrade by the throat and threatened immediate retribution. A bearded man intervened, urging to stop the senseless fight. He pushed both aside, saying that weaklings have no place among warriors. The aggressor ordered the loser to stand up immediately, otherwise he would kill him personally. The light-haired man in despair hit the floor, begging to stop the abuse. The bearded man reminded again, now they are one family, so they must stick together. The dark-haired man raged. He refused to call this trash brothers. He did not believe that running with sacks would give them even a drop of real strength. The bearded man objected. Every movement under the supervision of the elder brother made sense. The advice was simple: first surpass the master and only then complain. Leaving the hall, the warrior promised to execute the weakling for the very first mistake. Alone, he sank powerless, trembling from inhuman fatigue. At night, he again dragged his load, cursing the long road. Suddenly, a strange sound in the darkness made him freeze in place. In the darkness, a bloody gaze flashed, and a stone cracked under the stranger's feet. Young Lord Hwa sliced the air with his sword with incredible fury. Even little Soyeon did not stop her exhausting training. The master soared into the air, raising a whirlwind of deadly energy around himself. With one horizontal strike, he tossed a cloud of dust and gravel into the sky. The witness trembled with excitement. The gap in strength between them was colossal. The Lord's eyes burned red as he literally tore the very space apart. He instantly stopped, leaving a deep mark on the granite slab. Feeling a foreign presence, the Lord ordered the spy to leave immediately. The frightened warrior emerged from the thickets, trying to find an excuse. He swore that he ended up here by accident on the way to the restroom. The master only smiled and gave the order: replace the sack of rice with battle steel. With a rumble, the heavy sack fell, freeing space for the fight. The warrior drew the steel and froze before the master under the night sky. Sweat ran into his eyes, and his heart pounded from the inevitable tension. Master Khva coldly ordered an immediate attack. Swords clashed with fiery clangs, scattering sparks. A furious dance of blades and energy flared on the platform. The fighter clenched his teeth fiercely and stubbornly tried to break the perfect defense. The elder brother parried every strike with icy calm. In close combat, the master's advantage became oppressively obvious. Shock overwhelmed the warrior, and he suddenly felt that he had become completely different. The speed of his own movements seemed incredible to him. The sudden counterattack of the master made the man shudder with horror. Khva confidently snorted. Finally saw the progress of his student. The giant sword once again soared upward for a devastating strike. From the powerful push, the warrior flew backward with a painful scream. The body helplessly flew through the entire training ground. Steel and legs crashed into a deep furrow in the ground, but it held. Breathing heavily, the fighter barely smiled at his achievement. The master admitted, now the student's endurance had become tolerable. The warrior understood the main thing. One more hit no longer knocked him out of the game. Satisfied with the result, the master ended the sparring and went to rest. Alone, the man could not believe that he had actually become stronger. The next morning began with a new exhausting trial for the press. The fighters hung on the bars for hours, gripping the load with their legs. The dark-haired warrior trained with double, almost fierce zeal. His gaze burned with determination, and he ignored the hellish pain in his muscles. Comrades watched his mad inspiration with surprise. The squad tore through the crowd in unison under the scorching sun. The light-haired boy raced at the very limit of his physical capabilities. His vision darkened, but he begged fate not to let him fall again. The exhausted warrior bent under the scorching sun, barely holding back despair. The young gentleman looked confidently ahead, a slight smile of satisfaction playing on his lips. After a month of exhausting, fierce preparation, the end of this stage finally came. The master ordered everyone to immediately drop the heavy load from their shoulders. The sinister smile of the master promised new, even harsher trials. He announced such training sessions would be regular twice a year. The master promised that next time the gained experience would ease their path. The young pupils listened attentively to the words about the priceless value of hardships. The mentor once again emphasized, a hardened body is an unbreakable weapon. The crowd of warriors surged forward at the master's call with a single resolute shout. The master's hand gripped the hilt. The next stage began. Shrouded in a dark aura, he challenged everyone to a deadly sparring match. The giant blade flashed, promising to elevate their strength to a new level. The shocked fighters froze, waiting for their turn to face the master. The joy of freedom turned into an endless cycle of pain and knockouts. Each strike transformed inhuman torment into priceless combat experience. Former bandits officially became the new instructors of the Manhwa clan. The clan rapidly gained momentum, reclaiming its former glory. The shining residence once again became a symbol of Sichuan's unbreakable might. Young Dojin swiftly attacked the mentor amid approving cheers. The elders watched every precise movement of the boy from afar. They noted with relief the young man finally regained his fighting spirit. Dojin's determination and his connection with the new teachers impressed the elders. Munjin managed to raise the clan from its knees, surprising even the most experienced. The elders were worried about only one thing: when the master would finally emerge from meditation. In the semi-darkness of the sanctuary, the master radiated waves of colossal energy. A bright stream of magical power continuously burst in jets around his body. On the fourth day, the master's eyes flared with a dangerous blue glow. Energy covered the screen. The gentleman's assumptions were confirmed. The artifact fiercely resisted every new flow of power. The master fully immersed himself in the confrontation with the mysterious force. A hand covered in darkness reached out for the decisive strike. With a fierce scream, he unleashed all his devastating power. The tree cracked. A green glass spilled out from the secret hiding place. The poisonous liquid spread across the floor, emitting an ominous glow. The terrible stench confirmed the suspicion it was a deadly trap. An old book thudded beside me, The Art of the Destructive Spiritual Sword. A predatory smile evaporated. Doubt triumph shone. The treasure was finally found. After studying, the gentleman only sighed in disappointment when he saw the average level of technique. Yet he still admitted the efforts spent were worth the result. The cultivation method was perfectly suited specifically for the warriors of the Manhwa clan. The master finally realized why he could not teach the children earlier. The energy of their styles lived in eternal and dangerous opposition. The mixing of opposite forces would inevitably end with the rupture of meridians. His own destroyed core became the perfect vessel for the new power. It was precisely the past poisoning that allowed him to master the technique without obstacles. The Lord decided to turn the discovery into the official art of his clan. He carelessly handed the legendary manuscript to the elder. The old man's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He recognized the lost relic. The Lord only yawned ironically, marveling at the blindness of the former owner. The technique was meant to become a powerful combat foundation for every fighter. The master set the training date and went to seek peace. While he dreamed of sleep, the elders arranged a truly crazy celebration. The warriors took up learning new moves with fanatical zeal. The appearance of high-level techniques cemented the clan into a single fist. Dojin and Soyeon trained until the seventh sweat, fire in their eyes. 4 demons remained faithful to their own cruel methods. Even without new techniques, the warriors had the potential to become great masters. Another month passed unnoticed outside the window. The young man with the staff walked alone across the empty square. After transitioning to true arts, the children looked truly happy. Soyeon and Dojin showed a talent that defied description. The young lord proudly watched as they achieved success. Suddenly he felt an ominous silence. There was not a single soul around. The frightened servant Masak greeted the master in surprise. It turned out that today a grand tournament had started. The rise of the little dragon happened only once every 5 years. Without listening to the end, the master rushed into the sky, leaving a bright blue trail. He flew swiftly over the rooftops, accelerating with internal energy. Rage boiled. He had been forgotten to be informed about such an important event. The Lord suspected that the elders had planned to have fun without him. With a rumble landing on the roof, he began to look for his people. In the noisy square, the familiar trio of the Manhwa clan finally appeared. The bearded warrior urged the spirit to the children before the participant registration. Suddenly, a sinister figure blocked their way, and a voice mocked. The steward of the Beck clan sarcastically greeted the old losers. The representative of Manhwa respectfully explained the reason for their prolonged absence. The enemies only mocked, wondering where the poor got the money for the contribution. The mockery did not stop. They recalled both the 10-year debts and the famine. Soyeon and Dajin barely restrained their rage under a hail of humiliating insults. Munjin froze in a majestic silhouette at the very edge of the tall pagoda. Suddenly, the pathos disappeared. He realized he did not know the way to the tournament. The young man looked confusedly into the endless city blocks. Meanwhile, 2 mysterious figures in cloaks were making their way through the crowd. Passers-by watched them with fear and admiration. The stranger, impressed, noted the humanity of the great city. But Munjin roughly pushed her out of the way, making his own path. Munjin wandered the streets, cursing his own forgetfulness. The stranger looked after the audacious young man in amazement. The woman could not endure the impudence and loudly called out to the boy, but he only snapped back irritably in response. A tense moment was cut through by a calm, balanced male voice. From beneath the green cloak emerged a bearded elder with a friendly but mysterious smile. His eyes blazed with ancient energy as he begged the youth to become their guide. Munjin remained unshaken, piercing the stranger with an icy gaze. He rudely dismissed the elder and advised the travelers to pave their own way with their feet. The youth vanished in a cloud of magical dust, leaving the witnesses of his rudeness in complete stupor. The elder realized before him was not just a brash person but a man whose madness had turned into greatness. The woman shuddered, finally understanding exactly whom fate had brought them to. In the elder's memory surfaced the image of the powerful ancestor of this boy, the legendary Hwa Ju. He quietly uttered the name of the future storm of Sichuan province, Hwa Munjin. The master sensed his arrival was not in vain. The air already smelled of a great battle. For now, the steward Beck continued to humiliate the warrior Yamkwa with debts from the past. The enemy suspected that the clan had broken the ancestors' covenants for the sake of survival. Xian laughed contemptuously and openly mocked the rumors about the recovery of the Mad Lord. The bearded man barely restrained his rage, listening to insults directed against his martial art. The warrior Yamkwa's hand gripped the weapon's hilt with a death grip. The steward only provoked the opponent, counting on a quick reckoning. The warrior warned Xian one last time not to swear with dirty words in the presence of children. The enemy's shining blade partially slipped out of the sheath, releasing deadly energy. Xian arrogantly ordered the warrior to finally draw the steel for the last fight. The frightened crowd scattered in all directions, feeling the breath of death. The authoritative order of Munjin instantly stopped the escalation of the bloody fight. His eyes burned red as he declared this tournament a celebration for young talents, not a place for disputes. The steward carefully examined the Mad Lord about whom he had heard so many legends. Munjin disdainfully slung his sword over his shoulder, showing complete disregard for Xian's presence. Instead of fighting the enemy, the leader began fiercely scolding his subordinate for a secret trip to the tournament. Dajin admitted they dreamed of victory to surprise their mentor. Munjin gently stroked Soyeon, christening the little ones incredible brats. The leader emphasized the clan should be proud of strength, not the gold of empty wallets. His eyes flashed red. Faith in steel was stronger than any fortune. The elder Tan Sumun appreciated the youth's straightforwardness while enemies raged nearby. He ordered the swords to be lowered and recognized the warriors as the legendary Flame HWU. The elder's companion rudely rebuffed the onlookers, and the crowd whispered indignantly. Chang Xian continued mocking, calling poverty a shameful sign of weakness. He publicly ridiculed the children's old clothes, trying to humiliate the entire clan. Bearded warrior Yamkwa barely restrained himself from tearing the throat of the audacious bastard. Tan Sumun intervened and sharply reminded, silk will not make a worthless fighter a master. Munjin cut off the dispute. The true value of each must be shown by the ring. His face radiated icy calm and absolute confidence. The elder walked beside the youth, advising not to pay attention to the barking of fools. Suman smiled warmly and stubbornly gazed into the endless blue sky. Bearded warrior Yamkwa felt an uncertain suspicion, staring at the stranger. He could not recall where exactly he had seen the face of this strange elder. The tournament official formally confirmed the arrival of the Burning Flower clan. The group was respectfully escorted to specially prepared places. Representatives of Yamkwa majestically descended all the way to the very heart of the tournament. The grand arena impressed with its scale and thousands of excited spectators. The tables under the open sky immediately began to fill with luxurious hot dishes. The appetizing aromas of meat and wine instantly spread across the square. Soyeon and Dojin, unable to contain their excitement, examined the unprecedented banquet. Munjin warned the young ones, excessive fullness before battle was dangerous. The loudspeaker announced the arrival of the honored guests from the Peck clan. The steward Seon savored the triumph of his feigned grandeur. Munjin clenched his teeth, already calculating the harsh retribution for every insult. Suddenly, Tan Suman again appeared beside their company. The elder politely asked permission to share the meal with the HWA warriors. Munjin was irritated by the old man's insistence, but he still allowed him to stay nearby. Tan Suman secretly ordered his companions not to touch the food until he completed the inspection. He obediently handed the master a jug with a drink. The elder accepted the treat and said a brief thank you. Munjin dryly refused the offer to drink and kept his distance. The host appeared on the platform. He was opening the long-awaited tournament. Sok Ildo solemnly introduced himself as the head of the organizers. He invited the guests to enjoy the banquet and the upcoming fights. Suddenly, the clan leader's gaze froze on one of the visitors. In panic, Sok Ildo rushed to the table and could not believe his own eyes. He bowed deeply before Munjin's mysterious neighbor. The elders of Yamwo were stunned. Sitting next to them was the great Poison Emperor. The legendary name Tang Suman instantly echoed through the crowd. The square exploded with shock, a power so great that its presence overshadowed the tournament's status. In the Central Plains, the title of Emperor was given to only the 4 strongest. The appearance of the great Master Tan transformed the modest event into a historic occasion. The spectators already understood. The calm day had just come to an end. Sok Ildo was washing away sweat, regretting his excessive emotionality. While everyone was trembling, Munjin calmly tried to recall the old man's face. A smile flashed across the young man's face. He recognized the snot-nosed kid from his past in the legend. The memories transported him to the times of the bloody war against the divine demon. Thus, the most powerful clans had already been crushed before the great battle began. In that terrible past, Tan Suman was just a frightened, wounded youth. Munjin ironically noted how far that weak boy had come. Master Tan refused the VIP box and preferred to stay at an ordinary table. The tournament organizer was stunned by the incomprehension of such a strange choice. Sok Ildo finally recognized Munjin and tried to appease him with an offer to relocate. The young man indifferently asked about the start of the battles, ignoring the commotion around. Tan Suman felt in Munjin the familiar aura of his reliable rival from the past. Before the old man's eyes appeared the image of the legendary savior, the Flame Emperor Hwa Ju. Ildo politely inquired whether the gentleman wished to personally enter the arena of the great tournament. He reminded, this magnificent trial of orthodox forces occurred only once every 5 years. Munjin waved off indifferently. The glory of the victor did not interest him at all. The organizer bowed in submission, while behind his back someone froze in shock. Ildo panicked and rushed to the feet of the legendary Poison Emperor. He begged for forgiveness for his shameful blindness before the master's grandeur. The old man silently drank tea, completely ignoring the pitiful babbling around. He sharply set down the cup and demanded to immediately start the duels. Hei's faithful companions silently accepted the will of the formidable mentor. She delicately asked those present to stop the unnecessary fuss around the elder. The frightened organizers immediately announced the opening of the first fights. The judge recalled the rules: only wooden steel and no deadly blows. The tournament officially started with the appearance of the confident Baeksayan. Her opponent was appointed Soyeon. She was just greedily finishing her meat at that moment. Munjin encouraged his sister, ordering her to show the full power of their training. Sayan only mocked, anticipating an easy victory over the girl from the fallen clan. He was already planning how to break both hands of his opponents in the fight. Soyeon fiercely clenched her fists. The enemy's arrogance ignited a true thirst for battle in her. Her eyes flashed red, promising to make the enemy the first victim on the path to greatness. The boy went mad from such audacity and, shouting insults, completely overwhelmed the girl. The girl coldly gave the order "shut up" and prepared to jump. She instantly closed the distance, leaving blue trails in the air. In a fierce clash, Saiyan promised her to make a real hell. Munjin recalled the conversation about the ancient enmity with these traitors. Elder Cho said former allies defected to the enemy immediately after the change of power. Among the defectors was the current governor. His hatred only grew over the years. Rage boiled in Munjin. He could not understand where such wild aggression came from. It turned out that the Beak clan took advantage of internal strife to sharply increase their own combat power. The enemies skillfully manipulated the traitors, step by step destroying Manhwa. Saiyan, with a furious scream, rushed to attack the motionless girl. The boy delivered a powerful blow, but the girl gracefully dodged, leaving only a phantom trace. Soyeon instantly counterattacked and stabbed her leg right into the chest of the stunned Saiyan. From the force of a single push, the boy was thrown into the air under her unflinching gaze. The face of Saiyan twisted in pain, and splashes of blood scattered across the arena. He fell heavily onto the stones and dropped his weapon from trembling hands. The humiliated fighter rose to his feet and could not believe his own defeat. In the rays of the sun, Soyeon mockingly poked his bloodied nose. Sok Ildo admiringly noted the skillful footwork of the young warrior. With pride, Munjin acknowledged this combat foundation was laid by Elder Cho. Heya noted the incredible talent of the girl to anticipate enemy attacks. Saiyan grabbed the sword again, while the spectators doubted whether an unarmed child could manage it. The boy went mad with rage and promised to turn his rival into a corpse. With a wild roar, he unleashed a devastating sweeping strike with the wooden blade. Soyeon jumped back in time, and the weapon thunderously shattered the stone slab. A furious assault began, but the girl literally dissolved into the air. The technique of her swift steps made even the experienced he hold her breath. Manager Beck fiercely cackled, watching as his protege helplessly faded. Saiyan, in despair, cursed the elusive rival, calling her a snake. Each swing cut only through the emptiness beneath the girl's feline grace. Suddenly, Soyeon realized she was standing on the very edge of the arena. Elder Cho screamed in panic as soon as he saw the trap the apprentice had fallen into. Manager Beck triumphantly quieted down and clenched his fist, giving the order to destroy. Saiyan poured all his hatred into a decisive, devastating strike. At the last moment, Soyeon lunged into the air, letting the blade crash into the wall. The girl's skillful maneuver made the clan leaders freeze in amazement. Pushing off the wall, she dashed at the enemy like a blue lightning bolt. Frightened Saiyan raised a block, trying to hide his horror with weak jokes. The sinister smile of Soyeon promised inevitable and cruel retribution. Saiyan only managed to freeze in confusion under her formidable gaze. A devastating kick from above put a full stop to this duel. The sinister smile of Soyeon promised the enemy a swift and painful reckoning. Saiyan was washing his face with cold sweat and could not keep up with every movement of the girl. A series of devastating blows turned the boy's defense to dust. The elders of Manhwa demanded even more spectacular fury and ecstasy. Governor Beck almost smashed the table in powerless rage of revenge. Saiyan spat out blood, trying one last time to intimidate his rival. The girl's lightning-fast lunge hit the enemy's wooden weapon squarely. Saiyan's sword shattered into splinters under the weight of the devastating kick. The judge panicked and ordered an immediate stop to this one-sided beating. A blue pouch was tossed into the sky, and it signaled a forced stop. The symbol of the break fell right at the feet of the enraged Soyeon. The girl froze, casting a look of complete disdain at the object. The bloodied Saiyan sneered maliciously, feeling the imminent rescue by the rules. He boldly promised to return and destroy the entire Manhwa clan. Soyeon's psychopathic smile made the crowd freeze in horror for a moment. She stated outright, "A broken sword will not save a brazen one from retribution." The girl moved forward, openly spitting on all the tournament laws. She promised to repel the enemy right here and now. Animal fear finally completely paralyzed the body of the humiliated Saiyan. Soyeon soared into the air to unleash the final devastating argument. Manager Beak was stunned by such an unprecedented violation of sacred traditions. A flying kick shattered the enemy's nose, flooding the arena with blood. Munjin burst into wild laughter, fervently approving his sister's cruelty. The judge went mad from having his authority trampled before thousands of spectators. Soyeon calmly left the arena amid loud announcements of disqualification. For Munjin, this defeat became a true triumph of will and pride. The judge's furious scream caught up with the girl as she was already leaving the platform. Soyeon stuck out her tongue contemptuously and did not regret her action for a second. She cheerfully ran away, leaving the organizers to burn with powerless rage. The girl returned a true victor to the joyful cheers of her clan. Soyeon grabbed the meat and confessed, hitting the scoundrel was more enjoyable than winning. Munjin started laughing, proud of his sister's rebellious spirit. Overwhelmed with wild happiness, he suddenly broke into dance right in the middle of the banquet. The leader danced on the table, shocking the crowd with his unrestrained energy. The elders begged him to come to his senses, but the lord's madness was unstoppable. The scale of the drinking spree was staggering. Munjin treated everyone at the expense of the poison emperor. Hea only exhaled irritably through her teeth and watched the chaos. Soyeon explained she deliberately hid the aces so the enemy would not guess her strength. Tan Sumun appreciated the strategic genius of the little warrior. While Munjin demanded more wine, the children cheerfully competed for the best piece of meat. An unprecedented spectacle, young Lord Yamwa drank on par with a living legend. Time passed and the crowd's attention was fixed only on this crazy company. The tournament organizer barely restrained his rage over the guests' audacious behavior. The time came for the next fight, Dojin against the heir of the Sok clan. The youth stepped into the arena to Munjin's loud shouts, tightly clutching a gnawed bone in his hands. Dojin froze in the center of the arena, tightly gripping the wooden steel. The spectators were surprised. The clan of fist fighters suddenly chose the path of the sword. The blades crossed in a cross, and the air trembled with the start of a new duel. Sok Ildo desired only one thing: to crush his opponent before the emperor's eyes. Chaeyeon rushed into the attack and poured all his strength into the strike. Dojin cold-bloodedly parried the attack, cutting through the space with blue energy. The organizer was stunned. The enemy's skill exceeded all his expectations. The crowd froze, not understanding the nature of such perfect technique. The Yamwa clan erupted in triumph after the young man's lightning victory. Experienced masters acknowledged these movements had nothing to do with ordinary fencing. Munjin smiled fiercely and prepared to reveal the secret. The intrigued crowd demanded the name of this unknown style. The young man triumphantly raised the manuscript, The Art of the Destructive Spiritual Sword. The light from the book shone so brightly that it blinded the spectators. The crowd held its breath while Munjin proclaimed the conditions of entry. He stood on the table and called everyone who volunteered to join the Yamwa clan. The master promised even half of this knowledge would make a novice a true warrior. The square exploded with cries. Hundreds of people wanted to become part of the clan. Administrator Du was already preparing the lists, barely restraining joyful laughter. Tan Sumun laughed. Such a brazen recruitment only confirmed the master's madness. In the distance, someone's fist clenched with uncontrollable bloody rage. Elder Peck raged fiercely, but the presence of Emperor Atrat restrained his movements. He demanded from the head of Sok an immediate response to the audacious clan. But he understood, under the watch of the legend, any move was too risky. So the enemies decided to act insidiously. They prepared a cunning change of rules. The sinister plan was simple: to set a real monster against the children. They decided to throw the invincible Sok Yoso into the fight. Once the Yamwa clan held power in Sichuan, but those times have long passed. The Sok and Peck clans waited for years for the right moment to seize power in the region. They manipulated the tournament, pushing only their own bribed favorites. Corruption and power allowed them to completely monopolize the fighting arena. The time came for the final match, which was to decide the fate of the next round. Experienced Sok Yoso entered the arena against little Ban Yaval. Drunk Munjin warned Dojin this giant would be his next enemy. Elder Cho was stunned. The participation of an adult in a children's tournament was absurd. It turned out that Yoso was a former champion who should have long left these competitions. The shadow of the real killer loomed over the frightened little boy. The boy trembled, reminding of the harsh age limit of the tournament. The giant only cheekily smiled, falsely claiming to be 14 years old. Yaval shouted in despair about the injustice, but no one heard him. Yoso instantly appeared behind the victim, releasing a deadly aura. The little boy did not even have time to flinch from the lightning-fast attack from above. The child was literally crushed by a stone, and the judge cynically announced the winner. Yoso mocked the defeated, inventing pathetic excuses for his real age. Elder Cho demanded justice, but Munjin calmly finished his tea. The gentleman's predatory smile foretold this dishonest enemy would become the perfect proof of their greatness. Dojin gathered his will, preparing for the hardest trial of his life. The setting sun dyed the mountains the color of blood, foreshadowing a bloody finale. The judge announced the start of the main duel of the day with feigned excitement. Dojin and the giant Yoso met in the center of the arena, under the watchful eyes of thousands. The heir of the Dianzin sect entered the fight, holding himself as if he were the complete master of the situation. Even Heyer admitted this sparring surpassed any official final intention. The head of the Sok clan was already celebrating the victory of his adult protege. The leader of Pekov silently lurked in the shadows, cold-bloodedly waiting for the outcome. The stands of Yamwa erupted with support, charging the young man with desperate faith. Yoso arrogantly accused Dajin of the shameful failure of his younger brother. The young man responded with icy calm to all the enemy's mockery and provocations. The killer's evil smile confirmed it. There would be no mercy in this circle. Yoso's eyes flared red. He promised to forever deprive his opponent of the ability to hold a sword. The enemy's very first attack unleashed a dazzling and deadly wave of pink energy. The air trembled at the name of the technique, 12 shining sword strikes. Yoso soared into the air and unleashed a barrage of deadly energy arcs on the boy. Dajin barely held on under the pressure, almost choking from unbearable physical pain. The attacker laughed, swearing to smash the skull of anyone who dared to defend. The arena exploded with a whirlwind of energy, and Dajin found himself trapped in a tight defense. Even Munjin admitted, the speed of Dianchang's blades was truly impressive. The head of Sok enjoyed the complete domination of his fighter over the pathetic wretches. Yoso raised his sword for the final strike, revealing a chasm in combat skill. He openly mocked the desperate attempts of the youth to stay on his feet. Every muscle of Dajin trembled under the pressure of colossal and treacherous enemy power. A devastating slash from bottom to top left behind a long bloody pink trail. The blades locked in a deadlock, and Yoso triumphantly declared the end of the fight. But in Dajin's eyes blazed the fire of unbreakable will. He refused to surrender under the pressure of enemy steel. Sok Yoso unleashed on Dajin the 12 radiant strikes, pushing him back with pink energy. Powerful flashes pierced the youth's defense, leaving him no chance. Grimacing from wild pain, Dajin gave a last gasp under the pressure of the blade. The giant towered over the fallen, preparing the final devastating stroke. Yoso poured all his fury into the move and, wasting no time, was about to finish off his opponent. Suddenly a blue pouch crossed the arena, stopping the deadly sword strike. The weapon fell right at the killer's feet, causing him to freeze in confusion. It was Munjin with burning eyes who intervened to snatch his brother from the jaws of death. Yoso only sneered, "This senseless delay will change nothing." He disdainfully said he would return and finish the matter a little later. The boy's mangled hands trembled in the dust under a quiet, painful moan. Munjin loomed over him, fiercely punishing the enemy's blows on the joints. Soyan and the elders watched in horror at the bloodied and broken fighter. Tears and a fierce scream burst from Dajin's chest as the displaced bone clicked and set back in place. The young man begged to tightly tie the wounded arm to the sword. He was not going to surrender. The master's proud smile was the only response to his brother's iron will. Dajin stood up again, firmly bound with bandages to his weapon. Even the Poison Emperor admitted, this guy is a true warrior of his clan. Munjin silently watched his brother with his gaze, heading towards a new brutal battle. Yoso was surprised by the endurance of the insect. She did not cry or beg for mercy. The terrifying grin of the killer now promised only a swift and inevitable end. With a mad laugh, the enemy once again spun a whirlwind of magical power around himself. His eyes burned with a bloody light in anticipation of an easy and quick execution. Dajin dived into a low stance, keeping focus on every pink wave of attack. In memories, Munjin asked his brother what his true price for future victory was. Dajin swore to restore the clan's honor by becoming the first in this tournament. The brother reassured, the clan's greatness is his concern, and the boy just has to stand firm in battle. Munjin's cunning gaze already foretold the secret of the confident enemy's deadly technique. The mentor showed the main weak spot, a tiny gap right in the very center of the strike. The enemy's blow shattered the ground, but Munjin ordered an immediate counterattack. Dajin instantly slipped under the blade, preparing a devastating finale. The rising strike left a red mark and lifted the giant into the air. Yoso froze in horror, not understanding how the insect pierced his defense. The wooden steel plunged into the enemy's chest with a dazzling flash of energy. The killer's face twisted in pain, and the speed of the attack took away all his chances. Dajin delivered the final blow from top to bottom and killed Yoso right in the arena. The young man froze, stunned by his own new and devastating power. The enemy fell with a dull wheeze, raising a cloud of dust into the sky. The elders of Yamwa roared with happiness, and Soyan joyfully greeted the victor. But the monster proved resilient. Yoso fiercely got back on his feet. Shrouded in a dark aura, he cursed the boy for every second of humiliation. Dajin took a stance again, feeling his strength was about to betray him. An apple that hit Yoso's face precisely cut off his deadly threat. The giant, exhausted from shame, demanded to immediately find the insolent one. Munjin calmly stepped into the light and called the enemy an ordinary brazen puppy. He gently stopped his brother, declaring that this fight was already over for them. With a warm smile, the master finally offered the exhausted young man to go home. The judge panicked because of the disqualification, but Munjin was not bothered by formalities. He was not going to risk his brother's future for victory in this worthless tournament. The clan began to retreat, preparing to immediately tend to Dojin's wounds. The Poison Emperor unexpectedly invited himself over and shocked his own granddaughter with this. Munjin carelessly threw this over his shoulder. The old man can do whatever he wants. The silhouettes of legends disappeared in the rays of the sun amid the astonished whisper of the crowd. Yoso, left alone in the arena, ground his teeth helplessly. The final turned out to be spoiled. Meanwhile, on the city streets, random passers-by felt the breath of death. 3 grim shadows emerged from the crowd, radiating deadly energy. Hun Dojin promised to return the neck of the hidden dragon today. The Black Death Raven received a clear order to completely and mercilessly destroy. Masters of the Crimson Sword joined the ambush. A large-scale battle became inevitable. The man smiled predatory and dismissed all objections. Chu Sungun guaranteed his sect would instantly put everything in place here. The mercenaries approached the estate with laughter, shocking the guard. The rotten gates of the residence provoked only contempt in the leader. One powerful kick turned the entrance into a pile of splinters. The servant was stunned by such unheard-of audacity. The attackers confidently walked through the yard, ignoring the guards' shouts. The villain slyly justified the rot of the wood, hiding his snarl. A brief flash of anger made the servant quickly fall silent out of fear. Meanwhile, the warriors of the Manhwa clan were returning full after the banquet. The giants savored memories of a hearty dinner and rest. The brothers joked, mocking the clumsy shyness of one of the warriors. But near the house, only completely shattered gates awaited them. Shock instantly turned into rage. What was seen inside overturned everything. While the mercenaries were racing against time and pressing, the owners had already managed to assess the scale of the audacity. The leader trampled on Ma Sok's head, pouring outright filth on the clan. He mocked the rumors about the dubious connections of the estate owner. The quartet of brothers gloomily prepared to tear apart the uninvited guests. The attacker only laughed, considering the giants ordinary clowns. The warriors' eyes flashed violet. The order to draw weapons sounded instantly. The red-haired mercenary suddenly recognized a mortal threat in these giants. Enveloped in a red aura, the brothers rushed into a devastating assault. Young Master Munjin calmly stepped out to the noise of the bloody commotion. In a moment, the attackers were already lying pressed to the ground. The warriors reported a light massage for those who touched their brother. Frightened Ma Sok ran to the master for consolation with tears. Munjin calmed the servant, recognizing the mercenary leader among the beat. The one-eyed leader felt an icy horror and begged for mercy in panic. The master ordered to pick up the trash, and a heavy boot pressed Sung In into the cobblestones. Munjin coldly asked if the guests came to avenge that blind fool. Sung In proudly introduced himself as a master, but the young man was only interested in what was in his wallet. While the boy pondered the battle heavens, a majestic figure grew behind his back. The leader's eyes sharply widened with deadly horror. He recognized the legend. Tan Sumun, wrapped in a poisonous aura, accused the attackers of encroaching on the Orthodox clan. The angry gaze of the elder left no doubt this was an official declaration of war. A wave of green energy covered the yard, burning away the remnants of the will to resist. Naimans were choking with panic, feeling the end approaching them. Even the clan warriors and children froze under the incredible pressure of power. The earth trembled from the terrible thirst for murder raging in the grandfather. Sungun did not understand how this monster ended up guarding the worthless estate. Before them stood the legendary Emperor Yadu, one of the strongest men in the world. Every second of delay promised the attackers a painful death. The leader fell to his knees, smashing his forehead against the stones in hope of forgiveness. The other villains instantly joined the humiliating plea. Animal fear turned the formidable fighters into trembling rats. Sumun promised to gnaw on their bones during the evening drink. His next threat was even more terrible: to skin all their relatives. Sungun desperately shouted, trying to justify the fatal misunderstanding. A sudden burst of energy instantly dispersed the dense green poison. Tan Sumun and Hea froze. Someone dared to stop this deadly hurricane. Munjin calmly advised his grandfather to restrain himself for the sake of the children's psyche. The young man released his own red aura, making it clear who the real master here was. The elder laughed and ordered the wounded to be immediately taken to the hospital. Little Soyeon grumbled discontentedly. She wanted to see the continuation of the massacre. Munjin grabbed a sharp splinter and, looking at the damage from the broken gates, estimated everything by eye. He grabbed Sungin by the throat, preparing a painful punishment for vandalism. A piece of wood crashed into the leader's chest with a crunch, forcing out a bloody scream. The gentleman inspiredly invented a legend about the century-old gates blessed by the stars. The real culprit of the riot screamed in horror, vainly denying his guilt. Munjin, with a grim smile, set the price for complicity 10,000 nyan. Brazen extortion stunned the elders and warriors with its absurdity. Wrapped in a bloody aura, the young man firmly grabbed the frightened victim. The mercenaries panicked and begged to ease the pressure, while Munjin calmly prepared the reckoning. The defeated enemy shuddered under the Lord's sword, confessing a sin worthy of death. The one-eyed maniacally agreed to everything, but the young man instantly doubled the stake. The wounded villain banged his head on the ground and begged for mercy. The redhead swore on his life that he would never touch the clan again. Munjin's deadly energy ominously hovered over the fallen enemy. The young man's burning eyes declared, these scoundrels would not get a second chance. The Lord ordered to immediately sell all the villain's property for compensation. The attackers were given time to voluntarily disappear only until tomorrow. Heya silently analyzed the brutal reprisal, maintaining an extremely serious expression. In a few days under the bright sky, the estate began to change rapidly. The craftsmen diligently renewed the walls and roof, as well as installed massive oak gates. Munjin smiled contentedly, watching the native home being revived. Yet the grand changes in the building renovations were just gaining momentum. A queue of craftsmen lined up to the clan, tempted by payment and training. The young man was irritated by only one detail in this flawless picture. Heya gracefully presented tea to the Poison Emperor in the new gazebo. Tan Suman enjoyed the aroma, ignoring the master's outraged shouts. The girl calmly justified the guests' daily visits with large supplies of leaves. Munjin openly expressed dissatisfaction with the impudence of the uninvited old man. The elder only laughed, mocking the petty stinginess of the young lord. The young man reminded the idler of the hard work of the workers who repaired the roof. Suman suddenly changed his tone and seriously apologized for his actions. The old man was genuinely interested in the nature of the young man's mysterious energy. The elder put down the bowl and began preparing a dangerous test of strength. A lightning-fast strike wrapped in deadly poison tore straight at Munjin. Munjin's huge sword barely held back the swift green strike, sparking. The young man froze, stunned by the incredible physical strength and speed of the elderly guest. The old man mercilessly pressed with energy waves, forcing the boy to maneuver on the edge. Frightened Heya vainly begged her grandfather to stop this unexpected duel. The fight engulfed the yard, shocking the workers with massive bursts of power. The clan elders watched the sudden deadly battle in panic. Tan Suman concentrated a dense, deadly cloud of poisonous smoke in his fist. The powerful poisonous explosive fist crashed down on the motionless Munjin. The young man activated the third form of the secret technique, preparing to repel the devastating strike. The boy's face contorted with tension, and his eyes flared with red fire. The giant tornado destruction chi tore through space, colliding with the poison. The destructive blue wave covered the residence, demonstrating the incredible power of the strike. Heya desperately shielded herself with her hands from the unbearable magical wind. The old man watched in surprise as Munjin calmly landed, dispelling his magic. The young man uncovered the trick. Instead of poison, the old man had sprinkled ordinary harmless powder. Suman smiled triumphantly. His guesses about the legendary style were confirmed. Munjin demanded explanations. How does the old man know his secret technique? The old man calmly returned to tea drinking, inviting the impressed boy to sit beside him. The young man only smiled boldly, casting an appraising look at the cheekiness of the cunning old man. The old man croaked from back pain, begging for another serving of tea after the warm-up. Heya humbly filled the bowl and sat down beside the tired grandfather. With deep nostalgia, the elder rejoiced that he had once again seen this magnificent art. Munjin demanded the truth, how the elders knew the secrets of his sword. Tan Suman began a poignant story about events of long ago. Memories took him to the mountains there, where in childhood he fished with his grandfather. In those cruel times, poison ruled everywhere, and his ancestor was feared by all around. The legendary poisonous emperor in his prime was considered absolutely invincible. However, the life of the great master was forever changed by one fateful encounter. On the path appeared a man with a golden sword, Munjin's teacher from the past. Little Suman anxiously watched as the grandfather sharply pushed him away from the mighty guest. The children hid behind stones and tensely watched the warriors in black. The boy tried to hide his sister, but Soyeon's curiosity proved stronger. The girl held her breath, anxiously watching the formidable grandfather. Before the fight, the opponents pierced each other with icy stares. A lightning-fast lunge tore through the air with a dazzling blue arc. The elder gracefully dodged the strike amid a cascade of magical sparks. Deadly daggers whistled past, missing the target. The gray-bearded master lunged from the air, trying to break the defense. A powerful blue aura threw the elder back with a whirlwind of energy. With a predatory smile, the grandfather unleashed the destructive poison fist. In response, the legendary technique, the incomparable Nine Swords, flared up. The chi destruction move completely shattered the enemy's green wave. Shock froze in the elder's gaze as his assault was stopped. Grandiose blue magic threw the master back, scorching the space. Children reverently gazed at the manifestation of unprecedented power. The boy whispered in awe the name that turned his life upside down. The silhouette of the warrior swiftly tore forward, erasing the boundaries of reality. The gray-bearded man desperately fought back, but the forces were too uneven. With a clang, the knocked-out sword fell onto the grass, and thus the defeat became obvious. The victor majestically towered over the once invincible emperor. The legendary master was dripping blood. He was defeated in just 9 moves. The mysterious warrior silently left, forever leaving a mark in the child's soul. The boy watched the master with his eyes, feeling how changes were already inevitably approaching. The symbol of power was forever imprinted in memory, the incomparable 9 Swords. In the present time, Munjin confirmed to the old man the name of his technique. Sumun enjoyed the tea, finally understanding the logic of the old enemy. The young man admitted he continues this path, waiting for his moment. The mysterious phrase "for now" made the elder suspiciously narrow his eyes. Munjin promised to pass on the knowledge only to the true heir of the art. Tan Sumun respectfully apologized for his sudden test of strength. Munjin seriously inquired about the mysterious infinite sign. He confusedly repeated the unfamiliar name, blinking her eyes. Tan Sumun just shrugged. He had never heard of such a thing. Having been refused, the young man prepared to go about his own business. The old man stopped him for the most important question. Munjin looked around in surprise, waiting for the conversation to continue. Sumun directly asked about the attitude towards the granddaughter and made her blush. The old man slyly teased the boy, insinuating accusations of feigned misunderstanding. The warriors of the clan instantly picked up the conversation about the future wedding. The courtyard exploded with joyful rumors about the marriage of the young lord. Irritated Munjin demanded to immediately stop this farce. The elder unequivocally declared Hia the future bride. The boy's eye twitched from a sudden internal jolt. A warm image of a woman from a past life surfaced in memory. The young man quietly refused, stating that he would not marry in this incarnation. Hia froze from such a devastating and strange refusal. Munjin finished her off with a phrase about inappropriate taste. The girl flared up with anger, denying any interest in the insolent one. The lord and the elder arranged a loud quarrel over the idea of marriage. Sumun sincerely did not understand how one could reject such a beauty. The boy dryly asked to respect his choice and disappeared completely. The old man froze in thought. Was the young man blind before female charms? Hye raged and begged the grandfather to stop shaming her. She disdainfully called Munjin arrogant and haughty. Sumun decided to bring a gentler younger sister next time. He had no intention of letting go of such a rare find. The offended girl left, leaving the grandfather to catch up with her. In the shadow of the hat, a mysterious figure smiled slyly. By the pool, a formidable one-eyed giant rose before Munjin. The young man smiled boldly, preparing for another clash. HWA Munjin confidently walked towards the new addition. 200 volunteers lined up in the courtyard of the residence. The young gentleman introduced himself succinctly, wasting no time on an introduction. He was interested only in the strength and loyalty of the recruits, not their motives. The selection drill was to become the hardest test in their lives. The gentleman's predatory smile guaranteed a worthy reward to the one who survived. A quartet of former demons fiercely surged forward. Munjin ordered unconditional obedience to every one of their words. Ominous sarcasm passed in his last wish of good luck. The gentleman turned around and left behind a crowd of confused fighters. His last phrase sounded like a verdict: not all will survive. Senior instructor Call Muck instantly announced the start of the selection. The first task was the lifting of huge sacks of rice. The recruits shuddered from the unbearable weight of the load. Call Muck ironically proposed an alternative: a fight with the instructors. Fear gripped the crowd. Victory seemed impossible. The first cowards tried to desert right from the ranks. However, the path to the exit was blocked by the formidable figure of a demon. It turned out that one could leave only after a brutal reckoning. The choice was simple, either hellish training or semi-death. Under inhuman screams, the first sacks were hoisted onto the shoulders of the fighters. The instructor promised to force-feed rice to anyone who dropped the weight. A red aura of rage urged on those whose strength was already trembling. Munjin watched from afar how the caddies performed the work and was satisfied. Meanwhile, an unknown danger was approaching the estate. Blood stretched across the body, and the man ran to the clan gates with his last strength. His face twisted in pain and despair. A trembling hand reached out to the guard in a silent plea. The messenger collapsed exhausted and fainted, managing to croak the name Munjin. The guard froze, trying to understand the dying man's last words. The messenger fell heavily onto the stones, and the guard desperately lunged at him, trying to revive him. The beaten man's face was immediately recognized. The messenger's condition was critical. The evening residence was immersed in an anxious red glow. The bandaged warrior reported on the atrocities of the Manhwa guild on the trading streets. Munjin coldly ordered immediate preparation for departure, without any delay. The youth's eyes flared red. It was time to settle scores a little earlier. 3 instructors were ordered to gather, while the elder obediently accepted the Lord's will. Soyeon and Dajin overheard the conversation, hiding behind a massive chest in the corridor. Little Kijo smiled. She had long been waiting for a chance to settle scores with the scoundrels. The boy hesitated, but his sister harshly mocked him for cowardice. She was given an ultimatum: either Dajin goes with her or she goes alone. Munjin checked if his warriors were ready. The answer was unequivocal. The squad set off into the night, shrouded in a heavy battle aura. Cunning Soyeon giggled contentedly, pulling her frightened brother along. 2 children's silhouettes swiftly raced through the night forest under the moonlight. Dajin barely kept up with the adults, not believing their incredible speed. Munjin's sudden, authoritative order made everyone freeze in place. Killers emerged from the shadows, and the forest immediately exploded with the clatter of steel. The children barely managed to stop at the edge of the cliff and watched as an unexpected slaughter unfolded. They froze in hiding and with horror watched the brutal ambush. Muk merely snarled fiercely. The ambush was exactly what he needed. Munjin placed his hand evenly on the sword. He knew they would come. The bearded demon swung with pleasure for the first devastating blow. A huge fist struck the enemy ninja's face with a crunch. The heavy instructor's club forced the killers to bend from unbearable pain. The warriors of Manhwa made a real massacre, scattering the enemies like dolls. The last killer tried to rise into the sky, attempting to save his own life. But a lightning-fast steel strike cut his flight with a bloody fountain. The instructor's maniacal gaze fixed the final death of the attacker. The children watched in fascination, the fierce battle flaring in blue magical light. Dajin froze in shock. He saw a real brutal fight for the first time. Even at the height, the air was saturated with the nauseating smell of fresh blood. The last enemy in a mask slammed into the ground with a crash, raising dust. Muk calmly surveyed the pile of bodies. The cleanup was complete. Munjin offered the prisoner life in exchange for the name of the client. The instructor's iron grip quickly made the mercenary talk. The culprit confessed. The attack was prepared by the guild Blue Flower. The man's eyes flared with rage. He had not forgotten the previous attempt on the children. Contrary to expectations, Munjin ordered the survivor to be released immediately. The frightened killer was to deliver a frank threat to his masters. The young man's predatory smile promised death to anyone who came again. The mercenary panicked and rushed into the darkness of the forest, saving his own skin. Soyeon silently watched the fugitive with a tense gaze. The finale of the execution left an uneasy residue in the girl's heart. The brother was eager to leave, but a stern voice sounded behind his back. The children froze from the sudden and icy horror. The gigantic figure of Muk loomed over them like a dark demon. Having received a huge bump, the little ones pitifully begged for forgiveness. Munjin sharply warned. The enemy noticed them earlier than they noticed him. Such recklessness in the world of warriors always cost lives. The young man pointed his finger at a pile of dead bodies. They were frozen in grotesque poses. None of these mercenaries intended to die today. Munjin warned, the same fate awaits every ignoramus. The children realized every decision in battle is the boundary between life and death. The master summarized, the world of Murim is a place where only strength rules. Soyeon forever engraved in memory this bloody lesson about the brother. The children obediently swore never to act without orders again. Under the moonlight, the squad settled in the forest until dawn. In the night silence, a sharp knock of stone thundered time to light the fire. Muk ignited a bright fire with fire magic. The flames crackled, tearing through the forest darkness. The children watched the dance of sparks in fascination, getting used to the smell of burnt flesh. The reflections of the campfire forever imprinted in their eyes, along with the eerie smell of war. This night became their first step into the adult world for the little ones. At dawn, the forest was flooded with golden sunlight. Munjin urged the squad home, already anticipating a grand scandal. The instructor, joking, urged the young troublemakers to hurry. The squad briskly moved toward the residence, quickening their pace. Meanwhile, in the estate, the elder, as if mad, was searching for the missing heirs. The man grabbed his head, not understanding how the children slipped out of supervision. In the forest, Chanth mocked Dajin. He had again fallen under his sister's influence. Soyeon only slyly squinted, savoring her power. The boy irritably complained about Soyeon's latest threats and manipulations. Suddenly, the silence was broken by a scream. A wounded woman was fleeing in panic from her pursuer. The maniac cruelly grabbed the victim by the throat and reveled in her pain. The killer's sinister smile promised the woman a terrible death. The unfortunate woman reached out to the travelers, begging for rescue. Chanth was outraged by the cruelty and ordered Dajin to stay behind. But the instructor suddenly froze sharply, seeing the true face of the enemy. Before them stood a demon with a long tongue and bloody eyes. Chanth instantly shielded the children as soon as he sensed the mortal threat. Cold sweat appeared on the warrior's forehead. The fight with this monster promised only death. He tried to settle the conflict with words, hoping to simply walk away. The madman only snarled and ordered the dog to get lost. The monster mockingly offered Dajin to look at the bloody spectacle. The boy clenched his teeth, unable to endure the mockery of the nun any longer. Dajin boldly stepped forward, demanding the woman be released immediately. Chanth was stunned by the boy's audacity, and Soyeon already sensed an interesting outcome. A sinister shadow loomed over Dajin. The maniac threatened to beat the boy to death. He promised to tear the child apart and enjoy every scream. At the decisive moment, Chanth covered the children with his massive blade. A powerful strike tore through the air, and the killer immediately vanished into the shadows. The red silhouette easily flew over the instructor, demonstrating insane speed. Cold sweat froze on the giant's face. The enemy turned out to be too fast. The maniac softly landed, leaving a confident predator's snarl on his face. The frightened Dajin desperately called his only protector. Licking his lips, the killer eagerly prepared for a real slaughter. Chanth was breathing heavily, realizing a master of the highest level stood before him. He ordered the children to run to a safe place, not stopping for a moment. With a determined cry, the instructor rushed into the attack, buying time for escape. The blades clashed, scattering a cascade of fiery sparks around. The maniac laughed, finally savoring the chance to stretch out. The bloody dance only fueled his insane appetite. Chanth continued the merciless assault, putting all his rage into every strike. And the enemy in the red cloak only gracefully dodged every strike. The heavy blade pierced the void again, exhausting the defender. A lightning counterattack pressed Chanth into a dead-end, desperate defense. The sadist savored every movement of the victim, squeezing out even more pain. A devastating blow hurled the instructor far back with a powerful wave. Fear pierced the giant. The accuracy of this monster surpassed even the strength of Munjin. The killer kept pressing, mocking the helplessness of the opponent. The children froze in horror, watching the inevitable defeat of their mentor. With a demonic grin, the maniac rushed forward to deliver the decisive blow. Chanth closed himself with the sword, panicking over the fate of the abandoned children. The clash unleashed a whirlwind of magical energy that tore through the night silence of the forest. A dazzling explosion of light momentarily engulfed both fighters. Suddenly, the killer recoiled and froze in silent shock, unable to look away from what he saw. Seeing the savior, Dajin and Soyeon burst out with joyful cries. In a flash of blue energy on the battlefield appeared a young master. Munjin instantly crossed blades with the killer, unleashing a powerful explosion. Chanth greeted his young lord with boundless respect. Yet the instructor's heart tightened with sudden anxiety for the youth. Shock and even the incredible strength of the master began to retreat under the enemy's pressure. The maniac smiled predatory, surveying the skill of the new opponent. A barrage of devastating moon strikes fell upon the defender. Munjin barely restrained the fierce onslaught, gritting his teeth and breathing through the tension. A powerful wave of energy threw the youth far backward. The master gracefully landed after a somersault and instantly regained his stance. New instructors arrived at the site, fearfully awaiting the worst. The bald warrior froze from the incredible remote power of the maniac. The clan warriors were ready to intervene to save their leader. But they were stopped. Intervention would only disrupt the furious speed of the fight. The giants could only closely watch every movement of the master. Munjin skillfully parried every strike, not allowing the blade to reach flesh. The rescued nun watched this dance of death in fascination. With a mad look, the killer again rushed into a frontal attack. The young man gathered all his spirit into the speed of his own blade. Blue arcs cut through the air, calibrating the perfect trajectory. Steel against steel after each clash, sparks rained down. Munjin's cold-blooded calculation took into account even the smallest detail. The frenzied maniac, not understanding how the boy parries each of his attacks. The killer poured all his dark power into his last, decisive move. A colossal wave of deadly energy covered the surrounding space. A dispute about the power of legendary sword techniques flashed through the memories. Munjin ordered himself to endure this hellish onslaught a little longer. Two blades met in a final flash that blinded the night forest. The killer grinned fiercely. He was sure he had read every attack. The swords clashed in a dazzling flash, tearing the silence of the night forest. Shock pierced the enemy. He felt the first devastating blow to the shoulder. Munjin slipped past like an elusive shadow, leaving only a trail of light behind. With one fierce sharp swing, he threw the maniac back with a bloody fountain. The fallen enemy smiled bitterly, acknowledging defeat by the audacious brat. Against the backdrop of bloodied grass, the killer uttered the hero's name with his last strength. The young man spat coldly in response, HWA Munjin. With this name on his lips, the master of the Scarlet Moon met his death. The Lord cursed the scoundrel's body, wishing him eternal torment beyond the boundary. The rescued nun froze. She had already heard about the power of this master. Rumors about the mad young lord of the HWA clan surfaced in memory. The sun gleamed on the bloodied steel, confirming the legendary might. Munjin first checked if everything was all right with his younger wards. A premonition pulled him straight into the thicket, into the very heart of the slaughter. The instructor reported, the scoundrel tried to dishonor the nuns of the Amei sect. Dajin bowed his head guiltily, apologizing for his reckless courage. But Munjin unexpectedly praised his brother for his keen sense of justice. The boy froze in confusion. He did not expect such warm support. Mel Ryan sincerely bowed to the savior and expressed boundless gratitude from the bottom of her heart. The young man was not interested in ceremonies. He only wanted to know the name of the slain beast. It was the Scarlet Moon Sword, which hunted for the secrets of the Amei sect. Munjin spat disdainfully, calling the enemy's technique talentless. He ordered to thank the friends, rejecting his own desire to save anyone. The women bowed to Dajin, making him wave his hands in panic from embarrassment. The little one blushed to his ears, refusing the status of a great hero. Munjin watched as his brother remained modest, and deep paternal pride rose in his heart. The squad moved on while the nuns wished the warriors a happy journey. Meanwhile, in the past, the killer was rushing through the forest with all his might straight to his demise. Mel Ryan was convinced the rumors about HWA Munjin's strength were not an exaggeration. The young man abruptly moved forward, filled with determination. The master of the trade guild could not hold back tears upon seeing the savior. Munjin sincerely smiled, confirming his intention to keep his word. In the estate, preparations for the reception of the honored guest began immediately. At the modest table, an atmosphere of gratitude and mutual respect prevailed. Munjin saw how much the old man had been worn out by life's hardships. The burly warrior rushed into the hall, stunned by the lord's personal visit. The guest was amazed by the safe journey, while the young man was finding out what was really there. Munjin casually recalled the massacre of 30 killers in Alam the Moon. The news of the defeat of the member of the Four Heavens stunned everyone present. The boy's composure only emphasized his incredible strength. The guild master predicted unprecedented glory for the warrior. The old man scolded himself for overconfidence and the brutal beating of the deputy. The dark residents silently testified to the terror that was growing stronger from the enemy. Trembling with fear, the merchant begged Munjin for saving advice. The young man decided to draw his sword and demanded a clear plan of action. For open intervention, he only lacked a weighty reason. In the red glow, Munjin chose the first target, the weaving street. The sunny market greeted the heroes with a depressing, dead emptiness. The bald companion anxiously stared at the neglected trading rows. Only the striking desolation caused irritation in Munjin. The empty streets eloquently spoke of the city's inevitable bankruptcy. Finally, the warriors stopped near the required building. Munjin ordered noodles, trying to keep calm. Suddenly, their meal was brazenly interrupted by a stranger who was unrecognized. The provocateur in purple mocked the choice of the establishment. The frightened shop owner did not even dare to raise his eyes. The bald warrior tensed. He noticed the trap tightening around. An armed crowd in purple surrounded the heroes, preparing for a massacre. Munjin refused to leave the shop, despising complaints about bad food. The warrior in a purple aura ordered the brats to leave so as not to irritate his brother. The icy pressure of force made the attacker freeze from unexpected fear. The gentleman indifferently stepped away from the table, leaving the bearded man alone with the crowd. Two companions froze near the entrance and watched the fight that was about to break out. Bandits in purple confidently approached the table of the burly warrior. Wrapped in blue energy, the provocateur demanded to leave the establishment immediately. The giant calmly called them clowns, preparing to assess the nonsense himself. The enraged accomplices rushed into attack, shouting insults at the fighter. The bald warrior in a pink aura advised the enemies to chatter less with their tongues. He boldly called the attackers to come closer and show their strength. Metal handcuffs stopped the deadly sword strike with incredible ease. A lightning-fast hand movement tore through the air in a bright blue glow. A powerful punch shattered the stone floor beneath the feet. From the devastating force, one of the enemies flew back, choking on pain. The formidable giant loomed over the fallen attacker, who was screaming in agony. The shop owner desperately begged the warriors to stop destroying his property. Witnesses were stunned by the sight of the swift and brutal punishment of the brash ones. The yard turned into chaos, broken furniture and mangled bodies. The evening sun flashed on the magnificent residence of the trading group, Punyan. Munjin was focused on writing important lines on a sheet in his room. The young lord's face remained thoughtful and unwavering. A confident hand calligraphically wrote hieroglyphs on the clean sheet. The servant politely broke the silence and inquired about the young master's affairs. Munjin ordered the secret scroll to be immediately delivered to the powerful Tan clan. The assistant shuddered in shock as he realized the scale of his master's connections. A sudden shout from behind the door announced the warrior's victorious return. The bald giant brought in a whole group of tied and humiliated provocateurs. A hard blow under the knee forced the last attacker to fall to his knees. The lord happily greeted his fighters, ordering complete obedience from the prisoners. The captive washed himself with sweat, trembling from the inevitable punishment. Munjin coldly stated, before him were scoundrels from the Chinhua Guild. In a fiery aura, the young man declared full-scale war on the enemies. Shock pierced the enemy. He recognized the executioner as the legendary Munjin. The master's predatory smile left no doubt. He needed their boss. The captive realized a fatal mistake. They had walked into the trap themselves. Munjin gestured to stop the futile talks. The giant with the spear instantly prepared to carry out the bloody order. The spear strike cracked as it hit the prisoner's face. The room filled with groans of pain and the smell of fresh blood. The master ordered the neighbor executed so that the one who survived would finally loosen his tongue. A flash of black energy ended the attacker's life in an instant. The enemy's body collapsed helplessly onto the stones in death throes. The last survivor wept, begging for mercy in exchange for the truth. Munjin grabbed the rat by the hair and demanded the immediate surrender of the leader. The maniacal gaze of the red eye burned through the traitor. Meanwhile, a stunning news of victory thundered in Shaolin. Master Haiyan Wu did not believe that the young man had defeated the Scarlet Moon Sword. The monks acknowledged a genius with a heavenly fighting body had appeared in the world. But Ilchan noted the incredible talent not only of Munjin, but also of his family. The children of the HWA clan had already managed to become famous at the tournament in Sichuan. Placing the bowl down, the old monk decided to end the conversation. Haiyan Wu set off on the road, eager to personally see the young hero. The night residence of Amei shone with lights among the mountains. Elder Jin HWA came to say goodbye to the wounded Mel Ryan. The girl was confused by the sudden departure of the mentor. The woman gently explained, debts of gratitude must be repaid immediately. She decided to personally reward Munjin and his talented family. Mel Ryan once again enthusiastically praised the feat of her savior. The elder set out on the journey, leaving the nun to regain her strength. Mel Ryan watched the elder with her gaze as he disappeared into the night darkness. The girl smiled slyly, considering what surprise she was preparing for the HWA family. Jin HWA confidently walked forward under the silvery glow of the moon. In the luxurious hall of the Tang clan, a tense conversation was ongoing. Emperor Yadu studied the scroll intently, weighing every word. A scandal erupted in the residence over the young Hajan and her future. The girl's father raged, but the patriarch insisted that the age was perfect for marriage. Yongchen was panic-stricken to let go of his daughter, but the elder only mocked his weakness. Tan Suman cut off any objections. His word was law. The clan leader did not believe that the father himself was going to the estate because of a letter from the boy. The patriarch with an escort was preparing to depart, ignoring his son's whining. Suddenly, the trip was interrupted by a decisive female voice. Tan So demanded that he join. The woman in the bamboo hat appeared before the group, full of determination. So insisted on accompanying her niece, who did not know the real world at all. But Hajang was only happy for the chance to break free from suffocating care. The girl was already anticipating the taste of dishes in the best restaurants near the HWA estate. The majestic procession led by the patriarch set off to meet new allies.